Good day, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Viper's Viperland, and we're back. Umineko. Chapter 1 continues. I get the feeling we will continue to be on Chapter 1 for some time. But, you know, we're here. Things are... that was really perfect timing on Gaius. I thought it was going to go over, but, you know. I don't know if I'm going to care enough about the Marvel Collector's Packs. However, the card treatment I do want is Collector's Pack exclusive, which is the one that looks like a comic cover. But there's still a ton of good ones that are available in regular packs. I'll probably open a box of that. A lot of the universes beyond other than Final Fantasy, I haven't opened on stream just because, like, they tend to be a little pricier. Yeah, no, you see, we start in the tangent. That's the key. You don't divert to tangent. You start there from the get-go. But I'll almost certainly actually open a box or two of Marvel price pending on stream when they come out, which is not next Friday, but the Friday after. So, bundles around 80. Ugh. Yeah, bet you it'll be a dope bundle. They always do good with bundle art. Magic and art tend to go well together. But also, hey Ramen and Ark, how you doing? Welcome to Viperland of the chat. Oh, okay. The gift is always going to be more because Collector's Pack, yeah. And shiny box, usually. Excuse me. Natsuine-san was the last person to spot father, right? You know what? I don't know why I didn't take a big glug of my drink before the stream started, but you know.
詳しい時間は忘れちゃったけど、今朝の9時前くらいのことだと思ったわ。
I forgot the exact time, but I think it was a little before 9 o'clock in the morning.
姉さん、覚えてる？
Nissan, do you remember?
私、
I ran into you just as you were coming out of Father's study, right?
出てくるところに出くわしたわよね。覚えています。
Yes, I remember.
それが何だというのですか？
What does that have to do with anything?
そして、
And when was the next time you went to visit Father's study?
の書斎を訪れたのは、兄さんたちの遺体が見つ
Well,
か
yeah, I
って
mean,
からよ
the whole
ね。
game so far has been verbal sparring. Why not just, you know, add the hands? That was after we found the bodies of Nissan and the rest, right?
それを報告しに
Together with
書
me,
斎
he
に
went
上
up to
が
the
り、
study to report
そこ
that
で
we
私と
discovered that
一
he
緒に
wasn't
不
there.
在を確認したところでね。
By the way, Nissan,
その時、
at that
お父
time,
様の
when
書
you
斎
went
に
to
入
enter
ろうと
Father's
して
study, did you
気
notice
づいた
anything?
ことはなかったかしら。
He wasn't there. Notice
何
anything?
のことですか？
What are you talking about?
ほら。
Come on.
ゴミを拾った
You
で
picked
しょ。
up some trash,
畳ん
right?
だレシート。
A folded receipt.
確かに。
I do seem to
そん
remember
なゴ
picking
ミを
up
拾
some
った気が
trash.
します。それが何か。
How is that relevant?
そのレシート
Got
は
that receipt when I bought some
私が
candy at a
飛行
store
場に着く
before
前に
arriving at the
寄った売
airport.
店で飴玉を買った時にもらったものよ。
Aunt Ava pulled a small bag of candy out of her handbag.
あ
I mean, obviously
あ
you
の
can
時
never
に買った
travel
飴
without
のレシー
candy. Duh. Ah, the receipt from that candy you bought back
ト
there.
でも母さん
But, Mother,
そ
what
の
does
レ
that
シート
receipt
の
have to do
話
with
は
anything?
何と関係あるの？
George, stay quiet and listen for just a bit longer. Uncle Hideyoshi's expression was a little strict. Apparently, he understood what Aunt Ava was getting at.
本当にこれは気まぐれ
It really was just a whim.
何かを予
I
見してた
definitely
とか
didn't foresee anything.
ましてや夏
Or try to set up a
姫さんを
trap for
罠にかけようと
Natsuine-san
か
or anything like
そ
that.
んなのじゃ実はね
Actually,
そ
about
の
that
レシー
receipt.
ト姉さんがお父
Nissan,
様と
you
最後に会
remember
って
bumping
出て
into
き
me
て
right
そこ
after
で
the
私
last
と
time
会
you
った
saw
でしょ
Father, right?
その時
At that time,
書
I
斎
wedged
の
this into
扉
the
に
door to
私
the
が挟み
study.
込んだものなのよ
ってことは
So, what does that mean?
どういうことですか？つまり
Are you saying no one opened the door until Aunt Natsui picked up that receipt?
誰もドアを
Wait a
ちょっ
second,
と
Aunt
待ってよ
Ava.
エヴァおばさん
I don't remember. Did we see the receipt fall? Or was it just on the floor? Because it could have been on the floor if anyone opened the door. But if they saw it fall, that's a little more conclusive. That's a little smidgen.
レシート挟むなんて
Wedging
バ
receipt
レバレ
and
だ
it
って
would be obvious.
小さなが外
It's
出した時
possible that
に
when
気づいて
grandfather opened the door, he
面
noticed
白
it,
がって
found
もう
it
一回
amusing, and
挟み
stuck
直し
it
た
back
可
in
能
the
性も
door. Jessica hurriedly argued back. She still didn't really know what this all meant, but she realized that whatever it was, would raise suspicions about her own mother.
もちろん
Of course, I folded the receipt up very small so that no one would notice it.
でもね、
But even if you assume that he saw it fall, he would have no way of knowing how high up the door had been stuck, right? I checked it while Natsume-san was taking the key out. Oh, okay, so it was on the door. Gotcha. The receipt was still stuck not 1 millimeter away from where I put it. You know, I wish I could just eyeball stuff to the millimeter. I would be such a good carpenter. Like, imagine that. Imagine just being able to know within a millimeter the exact distance and placement of something. No measuring, no nothing. Next, she's going to tell me she has a perfect color memory. And that'll really get to me. Because to be fair, I have no experience in carpentry. But color memory is bullshit, and you're wrong. So, if that comes up, you know. I can't understand why you would pull such a childish prank. Yeah, why would she? Like, where's the motive here? Just in case a murder happens and people vanish, you know. Everyone's ready for that. I'm not saying it wasn't a clever thing. I'm saying why. I'll bet you're the one who did that prank on the door to my room, too. The door to your room? It was unpleasant to talk about, so I never mentioned it. But when I woke up this morning, there were the signs of some prank on the outside of my door, with what was probably the same red paint that was scribbled across the shutter. There were some unpleasant marks, as though someone had been tearing at the door. Wait, what's this? Why do you keep quiet about this till now? My apologies. Since so many horrible things have occurred since then, I had completely forgotten about it until this moment. I don't know anything about that. I'm not talking about your door, but the door to Father's room, right? Between the time you confirmed that he was in his room and the time we confirmed that he wasn't, that door wasn't opened even once. How did Father get out if he didn't use the door? He flushed himself down the toilet. Duh. It's the only logical explanation. He's in the sewer with the sewer mutants. I don't know that. That's what I want to know. Natsume-san, other than you, who else checked to see whether Father was in his room? Last night, the last time I met Kinzo-san was when we were playing chess. So I was with him until just before dinner. Who saw him after that? I did. I gave him his dinner last night. Ah, yes. Ninja Beatrice's. Yes. Shannon and I were with him. So at that time, Father was still definitely in his room. However, Natsume-san, when he found out he wasn't there, it looks like all ways in or out of the study were closed, right? But even so, you said you met with him this morning. I don't understand why everyone has become so gloomy. Can someone please explain it to me? Father and Mother. Are you saying that what Natsui says about meeting grandfather this morning was a lie? Like, how would she lie about that? Mom's guiltless. Why would she lie? Jessica, I keep telling you to watch your language. All at once, the whole room was in an uproar. Aunt Ava and Aunt Natsui confronted each other across the parlor table, with George confronting Jessica. What the heck's going on? Many people spotted him last night, right? But since this morning, the only one who claims to have seen Father is Natsui-san. And then there's that strange fact we learned from my receipt. So, how can we connect these points together? Damn. That is the most so to ever have sewed. like, ever. Aunt Ava urged everyone to imagine it. Sure, that receipt could become an important point, but I don't know which other point to tie it to or how. Thankfully, this isn't necessarily an Ace Attorney or Danganronpa game. You'll be okay. If we try searching for the answer Aunt Ava probably wants, we'll find that Aunt Natsui lied and acted as though grandfather was in the room this morning. Has that fact been exposed by a whim of Aunt Ava's? I don't, like... I don't trust that she set this up beforehand. I don't trust that this isn't some elaborate ruse in the heat of the moment. Because, like, why would she do that? I would argue her putting the receipt there is more suspicious than anything coming out of that. Like, at all. I don't get it at all. Why would Mom have to lie? She had no reason to, right? That's what I want to know. But Jessica-chan, you can't be sure she had no reason to lie and say that grandfather was in the room. Correct, yes, it's pearls. Yeah, I mean, look. They've clearly already shown that, like, there is a theatrical element to this. Whoever murdered these people wants them to be seen and wants thoughts and accusations to flow from that. So why wouldn't somebody set an elaborate trap to pin the murder? Like, it's already an elaborate trap to pin the murder on someone else. Why not add a receipt to that? You know. After all, you see it in mystery novels every now and then. That trick where people fake the time of death to create an alibi for themselves. What are you talking about? I've never heard of that. I don't read mysteries. We still haven't found father yet, but it's pretty natural to assume he's already been killed. If that's true, there's no doubt we'll find his corpse soon. If at that point the time of death could be cleverly faked, Natsui Ne-san would be able to create an alibi. Do you understand? Everyone? Wow, just killing them off in your head before anything's even discovered. This morning, when Aunt Natsui confirmed that grandfather was there, she lied. He was already dead at that time? And then she moved the body to some other location and tampered with it so that when we find it, we'll think he was killed just a second ago? That'd make it possible for her to create an alibi, even just by staying with the rest of us. Then she could say, I heard someone screaming! Dash over there and become the first to find the body along with everyone else. Is that what Aunt Ava's saying? Ridiculous. After all, detective novels are merely books for the purpose of entertainment. You can only think of such an indiscreet idea because you read them all the time. That's right! Even if she did try to fake the time of death a little, all that would be blown away in an instant once the police did their autopsy. That might have worked in the past, but do you really think that kind of trick would work on modern Japan? And by modern, I mean mid-80s? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. You think so? This morning, when Dr. Nanjo looked at the corpses, he was only able to give a vague estimate of the time of death, right? Autopsy results are very easily affected by the environment and individual differences. It's a very relative estimate with an uncertainty of several hours. Still use fax machines there. Yeah. To be fair, I still used fax machines when I worked at my paint job. But that was like 10 years ago now. But we still absolutely, like, the places we put our orders in from, they pretty exclusively accepted fax. We had a fax machine and we had a dot matrix printer that saw regular, steady use. So, you know, I'm not saying a fax machine is modern tech, but I am saying if it's already set up and it ain't broke, some people aren't fixing it. So, you know. baking system sort of COBOL? Okay, programming? Yeah. I don't know, it's from the 60s. Yeah, no. Yeah. That's totally fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Totally fine. Look, all you have to do is be the one person who can maintain a system, and as long as there's one, people won't have to update. They'll keep using that one system, and you will have job security. So, I never took COBOL, but I did take Fortran, which is not modern either. Meteorology still actively uses Fortran, or it did when I was in college. I can't say still, that is not knowledge I have. But in up to like 2010, it still used Fortran. So I think everything just uses outdated stuff. Totally not on topic, but while we're already on the tangent, seeing the Amazing Digital Circus movie, having only ever seen a single episode of the Amazing Digital Circus, is an experience. So many security holes. Oh, I'm sure, yeah. I'm glad they finally were like, yeah, let's fix that. Also, hey Fear, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. 61 year sentence. Look, that's your fault for not eating the cheese fast enough. Ramen is nice enough to give you cheese. Do you think all prisoners get cheese? And you didn't even eat it in time?
I ain't gonna make it. They took all my cheese. Tell Ramen, I blame them.
I still enjoyed it, and they did a good enough recap at the beginning of like, okay, I got the major points. So, you don't get cheese, then how did the mice show up to steal cheese? Where did the cheese come from? Mysterious cell cheese, you know, normal stuff. And unfortunately, the police's scientific investigation will have to wait until tomorrow. It wouldn't be easy to measure the correct time of death so accurately, even in modern Japan. Isn't that right, Dr. Nanjo? Examining a corpse is an extremely difficult task that requires both experience and instinct. I have heard that there is a very high chance of a mistaken diagnosis. I imagine it is very possible for a misreading of just a few hours to occur. However, for an alibi, that's more than enough. It's an old trick. The trick that works well enough. Natsue-san, it's not like we want to suspect you, okay? We just want you to prove your innocence. We don't have to suspect you. Yeah, she is the one with the gun. Yeah. What is this innocence you want me to prove? This morning, I definitely met with Father. And he told me to keep the one-winged eagle engraved in my heart. What's that? I remember that scene. I'm mixing up the timing. Was that the morning of the day we're currently on? I definitely remember that scene. Where she, you know, actually got the one thing she really wanted to hear. But the timing, I'm not positive. Okay, so it was in the morning. Gotcha. So she did... Yeah, okay. So, like, I mean, maybe we're getting fed false information, but from what we saw, that did happen. Yeah, if I had known, I would have watched the Xbox game show, but I actively was like, nah, I'm okay. That's fine. But, you know, still, they got some nifty things. I also saw the PC game show, and Cassette Beast 2 is pretty hype. I really like Cassette Beast. I never beat it, but you know, what else is new? It was kind of my go-to, like, fly down to Georgia playing game for a bit, so. The PC one is never going to have the, like, world shakers and the game changers, but it's going to have a lot of smaller PC games that you just won't hear about other ways. And I was okay with just, you know, keeping it on the second monitor anyway. I was also eating during the Xbox one, so I guess I could have convinced them to watch it, but eh. The PC one's fine. They had a little extra bit on Total War 40k, or Total Warhammer 40k. They had a little bit extra on Control Resonance, and a bunch of just nifty trailers, you know. Are you denying that he said that too? I will certainly not permit that. I won't let you deny that father said those words.
あるいは
Or maybe
お父
father's
様の
body
遺体が出
won't
てこない
appear
のかし
anywhere.
ら。普通失踪
Normally, a person
は
has to be missing
死
for
亡
7
宣
years
告
before they're
7
officially
年
dead.
かかるもの。余命残り
Wouldn't that be a
わずか
clever
な
way
お
to
父
extend
様を
father's nearly
7
finished
年も
life
延命
another
し、そ
7
の
years
財
and keep
産
all
を
of his
独
wealth
占
for
するに
yourself?
は
Man,
なんとも
everything comes back
う
to,
まい
can I just have his money? Can I just have his money? Can I just have his money? Like his money. Like his money. Can I? Me. I can't let you get away with saying that. You are talking big smack for someone looking down the barrel of a gun. Also, hey Pachi, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. No, neither of them can chill. One of them has every word they speak dripping with venom, and the other's migraine has a migraine. So, you know. I can't let you get away with saying anymore. I am Ushiromi and Natsuhi. Although I do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle on my body, it is certainly engraved on my heart. What do you think you're saying to the wife of Kraus, successor to the head, and the one who will act as such in his place? A very power art, yes. Super migraine and gun, yeah. Migraines give you twitchy trigger fingers, it's well known.
何
Wow. Don't care about gun. What's this?
その銃で
Are you
私を
going to shoot me with that gun?
いい
Go
わ
ahead.
よ撃っちゃえ
If
ば
only you just shoot!
どうせ言い
You're just
逃れも
desperate
思い
because
つ
you
かな
can't
くて
think of a way out,
苦し紛れ
right?
なんでしょ
To be fair, shooting you would end this.
やりなさい
Do
よ
it. Just try to observe the truth with violence, or obscure the truth with violence. You. It wasn't like Aunt Natsui had been actually holding that gun at the ready and then threatening anyone. But as she was egged on by Aunt Eva, she did hold it at the ready. Unsurprisingly, once things got to this stage, Jessica and Genji-san tried to stop her. But please calm yourself. Yeah, it's good, it's good.
母さんは嘘なんかついてない
Mom, you aren't lying, so there's no reason for you to listen to this. Calm down, Natsumi-san. All you gotta do is swear that father definitely was in that room, which she's definitely done multiple times, but you know. Why are you getting so worked up? That's correct. Natsumi-san isn't lying. Shouldn't that be the end of it?
だから説
Then I
明
want
して
you to
ほしい
explain.
お父様
How
が
did
どうや
father
って部
manage
屋
to
から
disappear
いなく
from
な
the
ったの
room?
窓は内側
The
から
window
し
was
っかり
closed tight
閉
from
じ
the
られて
inside.
いて扉も
The
同じ
same
よ
was true for the door, right?
今朝夏日姉さんが間
This morning,
違いな
if
く
you
お
really
父
met
様
with
に会った
father,
夏日姉
then
さん
you
には
must explain how father
開かれ
disappeared
た
from this
扉の密室
unopenable
から
door,
いかに
closed
し
room
てお父
scenario.
様が部屋からいなくなったかを説明してもらわなくちゃ
You know, it's fine.
John,
He just, again, he just,
姉さんが嘘つき
sometimes you just concentrate really hard and
やっ
just,
ぱりなっちゃうものね
you're gone. If you don't, then I mean you're lying. What? Why is the burden of proof on her? If you can't tell us how he did it without, you know, seeing it, witnessing it, being in the room when he did it, talking to him about it whatsoever, then you're lying. Duh. Yeah, correct. Bad faith argument, yes. Uh-huh. And when this much money is involved, it's all bad faith. How far do you plan to mock me?
どこまで私を愚弄すれば反論した
If you
な
want
ら
to
ぜひ
argue
しなさ
back,
いな
go ahead.
そうね
That's right.
今
Try
すぐこ
explaining
の
it
場で
right here,
釈明
right
をしてみ
now.
なさいそうしたらあなたを
If you
疑った
do,
ことを
I'll
謝ってあげ
apologize
て
for
もいいわ
suspecting you. No, you won't. No, you won't.
あの
And
書斎
especially
の
not
密室から
sincerely.
お父
How
様は
did
い
father
かに
manage
し
to
て
get
抜
out
け
from
出した
that
のか
closed room?
そんなこと
I cannot explain, and there's no need for me to do
不
so.
要ですそう
Really?
なら
Then let me
私が説
explain
明
it.
したい私の
Let's
立場
take the
も
best
姉さん
parts
の
from my
立場も
perspective and yours and come up with a more friendly explanation. I'll believe what you said about father still being in his room this morning. However, the next time the door was opened, father wasn't there. You don't have any objections so far, right? I have no desire to hear anything more that you have to say. Shut your frivolous mouth. My reasoning goes like this, okay? Oh, we got diagrams? That definitely won't shut her up. It would only make her talk more. I can confirm that on both occasions you were the only one to go through that door. And the receipt proves it. So, what's the answer to the puzzle of how father left the room? The window! He was sent out the window! Natsuhi-san, you threw father out of the third-story window of the study into the courtyard. She is going bananas. Whew. Yo! Madam, please, endure it. Nah, shooter. Hira-sama, please stop this. After that, when you left and said you were going to check the doors and windows, you took father's corpse, which had fallen in the courtyard, and hid it. That was probably when you took some measure to fake the time of death, right? This ties in with the case regarding Krause-Nissan and the rest, and also the case regarding Beatrice last night. There's a really good chance we've got a reason to suspect Natsuhi-san in all these cases. What happened to we'd believe you if you just swear that what you saw was true? You really... Multiple people said that, like, a minute ago. And now, all of a sudden... It's not enough? Okay, okay. Normally I wouldn't want to say this. But now that it's out in the open, there's nothing else I can do. Please, Natsuhi-san. Please explain how you can be innocent. Otherwise, I can't help but suspect you. I still think there's nothing more suspicious than the fact that she put the receipt there to begin with. But okay, sure. Why me? Why must I, Ushiromiya Natsui, be insulted like this? Looks like we got everyone's views on record now. The only one laughing here. Well, the only one actually laughing. It's useless. It's all useless. Not Eva. What do you mean useless? Jessica looked up at me, hanging on to my every word. Aunt Ava's expression was confident as ever. Useless, you say? What is? Battler-kun, tell me. You're only convinced it was Aunt Natsui because you're only looking at the case from a single angle. You gotta spin that chessboard around, Ava. Come on, haven't you been listening? It's not like I'm defending her, but that bluff of a checkmate isn't gonna fly. I think your reasoning regarding that receipt was passable. It's not a bad thread of logic, but I'd only give it a grade of 65 at best. If this were an exam, that'd be bad enough to get you extra lessons in detention, right? Oh my. Well, how do you think anyone could break through the door sealed by my receipt and make father disappear, other than by my theory? It's true that your theory is an interesting one. And if you could say for sure that there was no way to make grandfather disappear, then you probably would be able to prove that the last person to see him, Aunt Natsui, was guilty. To break tension? Yeah, you know. However, since there still is a possibility she's innocent, and these accusations are false, we can't be sure about that. Then Battler-kun, are you saying someone other than Natsui-ne-san made grandfather disappear? It'd be impossible for anyone else to do it. My receipt proved that, right? But didn't she... Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding. She said she put the receipt there last night, right? When they both went up together. Am I mistaken in that? Have I just missed the point of this, the whole receipt? She put it there after? Okay. After the morning meeting. Oh, okay. Wait, then why was it in any question as to why if she met up with him in the morning or not? If she put it in after the morning meeting, then why was that ever in question? If she didn't put it in before the morning meeting, why would the morning meeting have ever been part of the question? Yeah, that's what... It definitely wouldn't say anything about this in the notes, right? Okay, no, it doesn't. Well, they explained it, but I definitely... Like, it's fine. We're gonna roll with it, but I guess I misunderstood the timing of when she put the receipt there. Because if she put it there after Natsui went to go visit him this morning, then why was that ever in question? And if she put it there before Natsui went there in the morning, then somebody had to have put it back after she went to visit him in the morning for it to have still been there. Okay. So she saw her leave in the morning, went, nah ha ha, I'll put a receipt here. And then when they went in together, she saw it on the ground, picked it up because it had fallen out of the door. Okay. Cool. I was thrown off because they were discussing whether she even went to him or not. Oh, no, they weren't discussing. Okay. The issue wasn't did she go there or not. The issue was he there or was she just pretending he was there to set up for a later thing? Okay. Sorry. I'm a master at this. I'm definitely going to foresee every part of this game ahead of time with my mental faculties. I'm basically as good at this as I am at stealth, which is master level, obviously. Okay, but for real talk, though, I clearly misunderstood that bit, but it's cleared up now. We're good. My receipt proved that, right? After the first time she visited that study, and until the second time when we visited it together, the study was a perfect closed room, and when the seal was broken on the closed room, he was already missing. Okay, now it checks out. Cool. Now I got it. Nonsense, since you aren't note-taking. Correct. I don't know whether I'd be taking notes on my own, but I'm definitely not going to take notes on camera, especially since I'd have to tab out for a notepad, or I guess I could have physical paper, but, you know. But I got you guys, so it's fine. It's all good. And I think they mentioned that when they went to go check on him, the windows were sealed too. So it is a locked room at this point. So what they're saying is she could have gone up during that meeting that we saw, where she didn't do this, but still, whatever. They don't know that. Have snapped his neck, tossed him out the window, closed the window, locked it, and then dealt with it during the time they were going around the rest of the house. Which I would definitely make the argument of, there's no way you pick up a body in a typhoon that has been dropped out of a window and come back and see everyone in a dry, stainless outfit. I would argue that's impossible. She's probably not strong enough, but even if we're arguing she could, it's definitely not something she's doing one-handed with an umbrella that will keep her perfectly dry from typhoon rain and wind. At all. So, no. I definitely see that that's what she's accusing, but that she's also accusing her of going out in the middle of a typhoon to grab the body, to dispose of it, and obfuscate the time of death, while a typhoon is going on, and still coming back to everyone dry and without any blood, water, or, dirt stains on her outfit. So, I'm not saying she couldn't have done what they're saying up to the point of going to retrieve the body. She could theoretically have murdered him and thrown him out a window, or just pushed him out the window to murder him like dodge the rain like a Toho player. Yeah, it's a very little known thing that your body hitbox is really just like 1 pixel, and as long as you just perfect dodge all the rain, like you don't get wet or hit or anything, which is easy to do while you're also carrying a body. And if you've fallen from the 3rd story, all of your blood stays inside your body. It's a well-known fact. All of it. Yeah. If that doesn't prove she's the culprit, what kind of trick could they have used? Like I said, not Eva, only 65 points. Oh, also, UMed got cleared today, so it will forever be known that UMed got cleared on 6-7, and I don't know if Kefka would have wanted it any other way. Like I said, Eva, only 65 points. So let's try spinning the chessboard around, shall we? The question isn't how someone managed to make Grandfather disappear from the outside. We should think about how Grandfather disappeared from the inside. Those tether mechanics are hard to steal. The door had the receipt stuck in it, so it couldn't have been used. He also couldn't have gone through the window because you can't lock it from the outside. And when Aunt Ava visited the study, she checked to make sure it was locked. So the window also wasn't used. At that point, the study really was a closed room. You have to accept this. However, the study didn't remain a closed room forever. Once the seal created by the receipt was removed, it would be possible for someone to escape by the door. In other words, the question isn't how Aunt Natsue made Grandfather disappear. You need to think about how he was able to escape. Grandfather's study isn't an ordinary study, right? According to Genji-san, there's a toilet and a kitchen and even a bedroom, almost like a little house. For example, what if he was hiding under the bed and the two of you only thought he was missing? On Eva, even you didn't check that far, right? And then the two of you went back down the stairs, thinking he wasn't there. At that time, the receipt was already gone. In other words, if Grandfather was hiding in his room the whole time it was a closed room, and escaped after letting the two of you go past him, we can crack this closed room right open. But that would be even more suspicious than her putting the receipt there, because that would mean that he somehow knew about the receipt and planned to go around it. From his point of view, wouldn't it have made more sense for them to try to like put something in the door after they showed the room was like? Okay, I'm not saying the logic is not sound. I'm just arguing that two of the people here, by this logic, are acting as if they knew murders were happening. I want to interact with them. Yes, you're right, but he could have left his door at any time from his point of view. From his point of view, he could have left minutes after Natsue left, knowing that nobody else was going to go check on him because somebody just went to go check on him. Why would somebody else come up right then? Yeah, there's also the he didn't want to leave. But if we're going with the he left the room, why wouldn't he do it earlier? Why wait until after the receipt was dealt with unless he knew about the receipt? Which he couldn't have. Also, he didn't want to leave the room ever, but like that's like, yes. Again, this is a sound reasoning. This makes sense, other than the why. He wouldn't have known anything was wrong, right? But then why was he hidden in his room? If he didn't know anything was wrong and he didn't know about the receipt paper, why was he hiding under his bed or wherever he was in his room, waiting for them to leave so he could sneak out? Again, it's the why that's getting me, not like in the bathroom. Finish up after someone's to the door. If you can't dodge the doors that never see you, wouldn't you said choose? Yeah. Yes. But again, at that point, he didn't know anything was wrong. Maybe he could have seen from the window, I guess. Because they went to go check on him after discovering the bodies. We don't know at this point whether he can see that shed and the things that went down from his window. So maybe he saw that And even then, though, he saw everyone was out there. Why wouldn't he just leave there? Unless he knew about the receipt. Yes, him sneaking out could have happened any time after they checked his room to find him. But if he wasn't already suspicious, why would he have hidden at that point? Again, I'm stuck on the why, but the why will probably be explained at some point. I'm just focusing on it now because it's a tripping point for me, clearly. He's never hidden from them before that we've seen. He's berated them, he's refused to come out, he's gotten mad when they've entered, but from what we've seen, he's never... Like, look, I'm not saying hiding to avoid Ava isn't a logical thing a human being would do, but it's not something we've seen him do in the multiple interactions he's had with his family. He has full-on told them to their face, no! The fuck out of my room! Like... And if, mind you, we only have minimal times where somebody's had a key to go in, so yes, that is fairly uncharted territory, but any other time anyone's ever gone up, he's either ignored them or just shouted at them, not gone, I gotta hide in the closet. Like, I don't know, it seems weird to me. To be fair, so does the receipt. I've accepted she put the receipt there, but the why still gets me on that too. Correct, the ignoring shouting wasn't working very well. I don't know. Like, no part of his character we've seen makes me think he'd hear people approach and go, I gotta hide under the bed. If anything, I feel like he would just, like, try to shove a bookcase in the way first. But again, like, that's... Look, we have minor fragment of time knowledge of this character. So, it still seems weird to me. I'm going to continue on, but for the record, I still don't get the why, because it seems like two characters are acting with knowledge that they didn't have. But we're going to push on, and we're going to keep going, and I'm sure the game is in the next sentence going to be like, Viper, you idiot, this is why you're wrong. I'm sure. Okay, I read that. Well, what are you talking about? Again, like, if he had a reason to hide somewhere, this checks out. Like, the how checks out 100%. It's the why I don't understand. Why would father need to escape the room in such a bizarre fashion? Don't be so absurd. Yeah, it might be absurd. I mean, I guess I just spent like 5 minutes saying it's a little absurd. But again, I don't think his methodology is absurd. That is how somebody could get out of that room. If you're looking for a way that could have happened, that's a good way. That 100% checks out. However, it still shows that there's a possibility Aunt Natsui is being falsely accused. The receipt wasn't perfect. In chess, we might call that check. But it isn't checkmate. But the thing that really pisses me off is the mental image of my grandfather cowering under a bed. Is how you're pressuring Aunt Natsui to explain it, then claiming that she must be guilty if she doesn't. I'm glad he sees that too, at least. If you want to go down that road, then why don't you let me, Usuromiya Battler, spin the chessboard around one more time? That's an objection-ass piece of art if I've ever seen one. Aunt Eva, according to your own argument, you must explain to us why you and Uncle Hideyoshi couldn't have killed those 6 last night and then casually returned to the guest house. You've been trying to force Aunt Natsui to explain it, so I'm sure you can prove your own innocence, right? Especially now that all of Grandfather's wealth has suddenly plopped down right into your hands. That's right, you're suspicious enough yourself, aren't you? If you say Mom's suspicious because she was the last person to see him, then what about you, Aunt Eva, the last person to see Dad and the rest? Renegade defend mod is Phoenix, right? I mean, that checks out. I'd be kind of shocked if that wasn't the case. Just like Battler said, prove that you two weren't the ones who killed them. I haven't played much UMVC 3. Does he have a battler color palette in UMVC 3? Because I feel like that would also be funny.
僕もお母さんの推理は
Mother, I
少し
also think your
勇み足だ
reasoning
と
was a
思うな
little overeager.
レシートの件は
I'm sure the
確かに
receipt was
重
an
要なヒント
important
だと思う
hint.
でもそれは
But like Battler Kun said, that's not enough to prove that
夏
Aunt
日おばさん
Natsui
が
was
何がしかの
responsible
犯
for
人であ
some
ることを
plot.
僕たちは等しく
Man,
全員が容疑者なんだ
I'm glad somebody broke the tension, because everyone here was kind of like, she seems like it seems like there was a plot there, but now it's like, oh, you can't prove anything. We're all equally suspicious.
夏日おばさんだけが責めら
It's
れる
not
道
right
理は
for
ない
only Aunt Natsui to be persecuted.
誇りたかった
proud
お父様が
father crawling
床に
under his
這いつく
bed.
ばってベッドの下に
Hate to say, but I agree with her on that. I just don't see it. It's okay. It's fine. We're gonna move forward. And I hate to say I agree with Ava, but on this one,
そんなざれ言で
you
説
call
明がつ
nonsense
くと
like
思
that
っ
an
て
explanation?
それならエ
In
ヴァ
that
おば
case,
さん
why
の
don't you
先に
explain
説明
first?
確認よ
Who killed
誰
those
がどうや
six,
って
and
殺
how,
して
and how, and then try showing us
そして
proof that you
自分
weren't
で証拠を示してみろって
involved. Okay, well. You okay there, Jessica? Holy crap. Did she just ooh cough? Uh-oh. She's aware, Maria. She's transforming. Her days are numbered. Oh. And it killed. Shut up, Ramen. How dare you? The ooze are a sickness that are contagious. That's yeah. Anybody gonna do anything here?
お嬢様
Lady,
Ojo-sama.
lady. Jessica suddenly started coughing. At first, I thought she was just choking after yelling too loud, but before long, I realized how painful it looked. Jessica kept coughing and choking down on her hands and knees.
ジェシカ
Jessica, hang in there.
南條先生
Dr. Nanjo.
ジェシカさん、
Jessica-san, your inhaler, quick. No, wait,
私が
I
持って
have
きて
one
る
with
の
me.
があります。
Dr. Nanjo pulled a bronchodilator inhaler from his own bag, which was lying on the sofa, and handed it to Jessica. Oh, yeah, no, I definitely was thinking the same. Come to think of it, 6 years ago, didn't Jessica sometimes break into violent coughing fits and have to use that? However, 6 years ago, I never saw Jessica look like she was in this much pain.
兄貴
Aniki, was Jessica's asthma always this bad?
こんなに喘息ここ数年で
It's gotten a
だいぶ
lot
悪くな
worse
った
these
の
last few
大
years.
丈夫な時はいいん
It's
だ
no
けど
problem
ね
when she's normal,
突然発
but
作が
when
来
an
る
attack
と
comes suddenly,
咳
she
が
can't
止まら
stop
なくなる
coughing
んだよ
anymore. Well, that sounds miserable, yeah. You know, we do get the point, but I admire the voice actor's commitment and dedication to
Ojo-sama.
every cough. Lady, your medicine.
さあ
Here. But it was worth it, yeah. Taking the inhaler from Kanon-kun, Jessica used it with a practiced hand. It looked like her throat would still itch for a while, but she had it under control.
大丈夫かよジェシカ
Are you okay,
びっ
Jessica?
くりした
It
ぜ
scared me. It's no big deal. It's a little
大し
bit
た
of
こ
a
とねえ
deal.
よ
Don't worry about it.
心配すん
Beads
じゃ
of
ねえ
sweat covered Jessica's whole body, and she couldn't hide her rough breathing, but it looked like her sudden attack had calmed down for now. This disturbance had made the dangerous atmosphere up until now seem slightly unfocused, but that's fine. That kind of battle of mutual suspicion is completely unnecessary. When you think about it, finding alibis for each other and looking for the culprit is probably meaningless. After all, we're just powerless, ordinary people. And when the police come tomorrow, they'll definitely employ cutting-edge techniques and investigate the case thoroughly, solving all of the riddles and arresting the culprit. Perhaps Battler-kun is right after
確かにバトル君
all.
の言う通りかしら
Just as Natsui-ne-san is suspicious, I can't ignore the fact that I'm suspicious too.
それを今議論し合うのは
Arguing
確
about
かに
that
不
now will
毛ね
surely be unproductive.
明日
Everything will be fine
警
if we
察に
just
全
leave
て
it
を
to the
任
police
せれば
tomorrow.
済むだけの話でも
But
バ
don't
ト
you
ラ
want to
君
know
だって
too,
知りたいん
Battler
じゃな
Kun?
い犯人を
Who the culprit
大
is?
切な人を
Don't you want to
失っ
let
た
them
痛み
know
を
the
思い知
pain
ら
you
せてや
feel
る
from
ため
losing
に
someone precious
一
to you as
秒
soon
で
as
も早く知
possible?
りたいんじゃない
それは否定しな
I
い
won't
です
deny that.
これだけの上
Even
等を
one
決
day
めて
would
く
be
れやがった
too long to let the
野郎は
wonderful bastard who's behind this
たと
go.
え一日ででも
But that doesn't mean that I want to
だからといっ
suspect one of
て
the 18.
さっきはああ言った
Even
が
though I said what I said earlier, I don't even want to suspect
湯
you,
葉おばさんだ
Eva.
って俺にとって
To
の
me,
湯葉お
you're
ば
an
さん
awesome aunt who's always fun and
ちゃめっ気
playful.
があってそんなおばさんと
Unless you have money, she wants.
こんな
I
の
don't
の知り
want
合
to
いは
trade
したくね
insults with an aunt like that.
ここにいる誰だって
I wouldn't want to do that
そん
with
なこと
anyone
は
here,
だろ
right?
みんな
Everyone?
バトラー君に同
I
じ
feel the same way as Battler Kun.
意味のない
It's
罵
pointless to
り合い
trade
だね
insults.
多分
It's probably just the
これ
stress
だけの
build up
人数
because so many people
が
have been
朝から
crammed
一
into
ところ
one
に
place
ずっ
this
と集ま
morning.
ってるから
でしょうな
Probably.
無理もない
It's only natural.
言ってでき
It
る
may
も
not
の
be
で
my
はあり
place
ま
to
せ
say
ん
it, but I
が
think we should all
なるべく
relax
皆
as
さん
much as possible.
リラックスしましょ
Easier said than done in this, situation, but
うエヴァ
Ava,
わしらも
I think
頭
we
を
better
冷
cool
や
our
す
heads
べ
too.
きとレシートの件は
Their seat's
確か
definitely a
に
big clue for
お父
figuring
さん
out
の
how
失踪
father
を探る
disappeared.
警察が来た
We
ら
should tell the police
話
about
す
it
と
when
い
they come.
いやろ
そうね
That's right.
そう
Right.
レシートの
I
一
just felt a
件
little
で
triumphant when I
つい
figured out that
鬼
part
の
with the
首を取っ
receipt.
たような気持ちになった確かに夏日姉さんだけを疑う
Of
のは
course,
フ
it
ェア
isn't
じゃ
fair
な
to
いわ
only suspect Natsui-san, right? Just got a little carried away, that's all. Just a little carried away towards someone with a gun pointed at you. Just standard things.
私たちだって等しく疑わしい
We're just as suspicious.
でもねバトラ
But still,
君
Battler Kun.
レシー
At
トの
least the part
話
about the
だけ
receipt
は
is
本
real,
当よ
okay?
これ
Don't forget it.
忘れないでそしてこれがどう
And try
いう
thinking
意味を
deeply
持つ
about what it
か
means one more time,
もう
okay?
一度よく考えてみて
Okay, that's cool, but answer me. Why did you put the receipt there? Before you knew any of this was going down, before you had any reason to suspect anyone of anything, why did you put the receipt there? Ah, it's fine. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi stood up. Looked like they planned on leaving the parlor.
結局私たちはこんな推理ごっこして
Yeah,
も意味
but
が
it's
ないのよ
fine. In the end, it's pointless for us to keep playing detectives. After all, the police will reveal everything
すべ
anyway.
て明かしてくれるんですもの
That's right. Even if we don't play this detective game, the typhoon will pass. And when those lively seagulls return to the harbor, everything will settle itself. That's right. If you think about it, this kind of crime is completely trivial. It will definitely be resolved, even if we do nothing. When the seagulls cry.
これ以上
Natsui-ne-san,
夏日姉
I
さん
take
も
it you don't
私
want to
の
see
顔
my
を見
face
ていてく
anymore.
れないでしょ
Or hear your voice.
私
I
も
feel
同
the
じよ
same.
確か姉さんは
If
昨
I remember
日
correctly, yesterday you had some rooms prepared for us in the mansion so that we wouldn't need to go back to the guest house, right?
あそこはバスの
Those
ト
should
イレ
each have
も
a
ある
bath
し
and a toilet, as well as a lock and a chain to secure the door.
横になれるベ
There's
ッ
even
ド
a
もあ
bed
る
to
し
lie on, and my husband will
主
be
人
able
も
to
マリア
watch
ちゃんと
TV
チャ
without
ンネル
having to
争い
fight
を
with
せずに
Maria
テ
chan
レビ
over
を
which
見る
channel
こ
to
とが
watch,
でき
right?
るわ
お好きになさ
Do
い
whatever
い
you
いでしょ
want.
でも
But make sure to be cautious.
くれぐれもよ
ありがとう
Thank you,
姉さん
And mind your own business.
姉さんはみん
I'll
なの
be counting
監
on
視
you
を
to
よ
keep
ろ
an
し
eye on
くね
everyone, okay?
犯人はこの
Because the
中に
culprit
必
is
ずいるんだか
definitely
ら
here.
そして姉さん
And
も
Nesan, make sure you don't forget to
自
keep
分
an eye
が
on
監
yourself
視をされてい
too.
ることを
捨て台詞はそれ
You
で十分
finished
です
talking? You're taking your parting shots?
ええ十
Yes,
分
I'm
よ
finished.
じゃあね
See
夏
you,
日姉
Natsui 姉
さ
さ
ん源氏さん
Genji-san,
夕食に
let
なっ
us
たら
know
呼
when
ん
it's
で
time
ね
for dinner.
それまでチェーンをかけて
Until
閉じ
then,
こ
we'll
もって
lock
る
ourselves in with the chain.
源氏カノ
Genji, Canon,
お二人を客
escort
室ま
them
で
to
お
the
送
guest
りを
rooms.
結構
We'll be
よ
fine.
送り
I
狼
hate
なんて
shady
嫌だ
escorts.
むしろ
In fact, I'd be more
私たちが
comfortable
部
if
屋に行
nobody
くま
leaves
で
this room
誰
until
も
we
この
reach
部屋を
ours.
出ジョージ行くわよ
Let's go, George.
僕は
I'll stay here with everyone.
ここでみんな
ジョージ
George, the culprit is in this room.
そんなところにい
You
るつも
plan on
り
staying in a place like that?
この部屋を出るとい
Living
う
in
こ
this
と
room
は
would be the same as
親
suspecting
族
one
の
of my
誰かを疑った
relatives.
僕は
Can't believe anyone in our
あんな恐ろ
family is
しいことが
capable
で
of
きる
something
人間
that
が
horrible.
ジョージ
George,
あなたからも言ってや
darling,
って
you tell him
よ
too.
George
is already an adult man. If his code tells him not to leave this room, then it's up to him. Let him do what he wants.
父さん
Father. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi left. The only voice that called after them was the sound of the rain. Yeah, everyone escort you to the room, obviously. The parlor was being buried beneath the savage atmosphere. When I looked at the clock, I was surprised to find that it was already evening. Had we really spent that much time worrying about needless things, talking with each other, fighting with each other? Feeling bored, I started scratching my head when Maria and I made eye contact. I was a little surprised, since I thought she was completely immersed in the TV.
今なら信じるぜ
I believe it now. Ooh.
手紙も殺人
The
も
letter,
全
the
て
murders, everything. It was all
ベアトリーチ
Beatrice.
いや
In fact, I almost feel like begging her to come out and take credit for all of it.
19人目の
I want it to be the work of a
信じさせてく
19th
れ
person. Otherwise, the 18 of us will have to keep on suspecting each
こ
other.
れなら19人目の存在を信じる方がマシさ
I think believing in a 19th person is better than that.
扉も窓も開けず
Bringing
に
grandfather outside without opening the doors or windows must be a piece of cake for Beatrice,
ベ
right?
アトリーチェならお茶の子さいさいなんだろ
Maria, after taking a single short breath, hung her head and then raised her face again.
そうだよ。
That's right.
魔女の前に
Locking a door is useless against a
何の
witch.
役にも
How
立
is
たないん
useless
だ
against a
よ。
ghost? I guess witches, they can cast knock.
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice is familiar with all
72
72
demons.
demons. I'm glad there's only 72 demons covering the whole world, because, imagine how horrible it would be to have your own demon, like a personal demon, instead of just like a vague, your area demon. And, you can always just leave your demonic zip code to other demons. Evil person. That's true, you get the Shadow Gate that every evil person gets the second they become evil. You're right. Goddamn Kingdom Hearts Shadow Teleport. Broken. Always. The 33rd ranked Gomp gives the power to instantly carry the desired person to any location. To her, taking the person out of any closed room isn't hard at all, you see.
魔女はすげえ
Which is sure are incredible.
頼むからもしまだ事件
Tell her if she feels like committing another crime to do it in a way that no human could.
俺に19
And make
人
me
が
believe that a 19th person, no, a witch
魔
exists.
女の存在を信じさ
Is he the only person wishing for someone else to die?
いいよ。
Okay.
あったら伝え
If I
て
meet
お
her,
く
I'll
よ。
tell her. Crap. Nothing's made sense to me for a while now. Just when I want to believe in a 19th person, I deny it. And just when I want to believe there are only 18 people, I deny that too. Even though I want there to be more than just 18 people here, I can't accept the existence of that 19th. Someone else to die, clearly, yes. In short, even though there are more than 18 people, there are less than 19 people. What? No. The number of people in this mansion is less than 19 and greater than 18. No. So the number of people can't be represented by an integer. However, it's impossible for there to be anything after the decimal point. You shouldn't be able to show the number of people with anything but an integer. And yet, less than 19 and greater than 18s were x's. How do you explain the fraction less than 1? It's no wonder. That 19th person was something that couldn't be seen. That's why, since you can only write the number of people as an integer, you couldn't see that person. That which cannot be seen. Because Beatrice has no body. Therefore she is invisible. Is there a 19th person or not? Does the witch exist or not? 19x18. The witch exists somewhere in that x. Good luck, yeah. More time. It do be passing. Favorite yaoi ship, obviously, yes. Mm-hmm. Not gonna move the camera, but the wallpaper on the screen is the anonymous code ramen eating scene. The uncomfortable atmosphere continued even after those two left. It was thick with the idea that simply thinking about the culprit's identity would be the same as deciding who to suspect. It had begun to feel like discussion of the case was itself taboo, so no one mentioned the case, at least out loud. However, those thoughts were what filled our minds. That game was insane for we're in a simulation within a simulation within a simulation within a simulation. The Vatican knows. Also, the world's going to end. Yup. The game was insane. All that we couldn't say out loud made our heads feel like they were going to explode. So at least on the outside, the parlor had once again regained its calm mood. Yeah, the Vatican sending out evil hitmen to stop people from trying to stop the end of the world because it wants the world to end because church. Totally normal. Everything was left unsettled. Feels like the rain's gotten a little lighter.
少しだけ雨足が弱まった気がするね。
Ooh.
まだいっぱい降ってるよ。
Still pouring down.
おー
Ooh.
仮に止んだって、
Even if it did stop,
この
there's no
島に
boat
は
on this
船が
island.
が
But it'd be nice
明
if the boat
日す
came
ぐに来
quickly
てくれ
tomorrow.
りゃいい。洋館バ
I've
カ
had
ス
enough
も
of
う
this
お腹いっ
Western
ぱいだ
mansion
ぜ。
vacation. Yeah.
母さん、
Mom, when will the boat come
船
tomorrow?
はいつ来るのかな。
本来なら
Normally the boat to
帰り
take
の
them
船
back would
は
arrive
今日
at
の
3
3時
o'clock
に来て
today.
先方も
They
台風が
probably
過
sent
ぎ
us
た
a
ら
phone
来
call
直
to
す
say
と
that
電
they
話
would
して
come
くれ
after
た
the
でしょう
typhoon
が
passed, but unfortunately the
相
phones
手と
aren't
電話は普
working.
通ですから。でも
But they
向
aren't
こうも子
children.
供の使い
But
で
they
はあり
aren't
ません。
children over
客
there.
人の方
They
々
were
の
told
送
to
迎
both
目
drop
的だ
off
と
and
教えてあ
collect
り
our
ますが、おそ
guests.
らく明日の
So
朝
they will
一
most
番
likely
で
arrive first thing tomorrow morning.
多分9時頃
Probably
くらい
around
に来てくれ
9,
る
I
でしょう。
believe. It was completely black outside. When I looked at the clock, I realized that it was just past 7 o'clock. I'm starting to get hungry. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was cooking enthusiastically. She had laid out a variety of dishes, and while they didn't match the level of Goda's artful cooking, they were still quite gorgeous. It was an act of kindness from Kumasawa, who was trying to enliven everyone's low spirits with some food. Kumasawa wasn't nearly as talented as a professional cook like Goda, but she was far from unskilled. On the contrary, since she had been brought up in a fishing village, the simple food she created was something highly praised. Kanon arranged the food Kumasawa had finished creating on plates under her direction. Good luck on the fishing, but Kanon also helped out in the kitchen sometimes, but since he was rarely placed in that role, he was slightly awkward even though he tried his best. Self-conscious about the fact that he couldn't cleverly arrange the food. Wow, he set a new record for riseless thighs. Self-conscious about the fact that he couldn't cleverly arrange the food, Kanon's expression darkened slightly. But Kumasawa smiled as though everything was fine. It's arranged beautifully. Kanon-kun, aren't you skilled? If it had been Shannon Nesan, it would look even more beautiful. Kanon stopped arranging the food for a bit and hung his head. Shannon was the one who always assisted Kumasawa in her cooking. Tonight, Kanon was doing it instead, and as he remembered Shannon's face and her brutal end, he grimaced. Forget that for now. Genji spoke kindly to Kanon as he advanced a pawn. Nanjo had escaped from the parlor once the mood had grown sour, and Genji had become his opponent in a game of chess upon Nanjo's request. Yes. I will forget it for now. Indeed. It's probably for the best. Genji purposely refrained from facing Kanon as he spoke. He did so because he understood that it might make things tougher on Kanon if he noticed that someone was looking at his eyes. Nanjo also understood that and held back any thoughtless words. I wonder where Kinzo-san is gone. I hope that he is safe, but I do not know. However, I believe everything has proceeded as the master has hoped and arranged for. To distrust that would exceed my role as furniture in service to the master. Are you scared, Genji-san? I'm frightened that something bad will occur again tonight. I have nothing to be afraid of. Serve the Ushiromiya family, that is all. Nanjo sighed through his nose and made a carefully considered move. Nanjo was very slightly dubious. Could Genji possibly be thinking that he'd be left out of this? He couldn't even imagine what was happening inside this mansion. But he definitely couldn't deny the possibility that Kinzo had devised something. If you liken this island to chess, Kinzo had opened the game, and as a result, 6 pieces had been defeated. Could it be that Genji was calm because he believed he alone was on the outside of the chessboard? Nanjo thought about it. Isn't everyone just a piece on this chessboard lined up equally without any exceptions? Wasn't even Genji, who had gained more of Kinzo's trust than anyone, no, who was confident of his position as Kinzo's only close friend, just another one of the pieces laid out on the chessboard? Genji-san, I am truly frightened about tonight. I hope with all my heart that we will still be safe when tomorrow morning comes. The guest room Eva and Hideyoshi moved into had originally been built to house guests before the guest house's construction. So until a few years ago, they had stayed in these rooms every family conference and were very familiar with them. This room was just like a room at a hotel, with a bedroom and a bathroom. But even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. Guess it's true you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Maybe it'd be better if everyone else also shut themselves in guest rooms and locked the door. Yeah, because that totally worked in the extra chapter in Witch on the Holy Night. Definitely. Yep, just everyone lock themselves in their rooms. It'll be fine. Natsuhine-san said that no one could leave the parlor, throwing her weight around. I'm sure no one will be able to talk back. She's always been treated so coldly, so now that Nei-san's dead, she's getting excited about finally having so much power. Seriously, how shameless can she be? Really? Eva talking about shamelessness. Really? 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 Come now, don't say that. Natsui-san's doing pretty well. No need to jump on her like that. And about that receipt earlier, you went too far. Come on. If I hadn't said it there, there wouldn't be another good time to say it. Eva, sulking cutely and looking at the television, sat alongside Hideyoshi, who was also lying on the bed. Or who was lying on the bed. Yeah, pot meat kettle very much. Still, we haven't been alone like this for quite some time. Please don't have murder mansion sex. People are dead. People are dead. Right. But think of it, both you and I have gotten pretty old. Since George was born, everything's gone by in the blink of an eye. It really has. I wonder if we were too hasty in having a child. Eva's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. Yeah, she had thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Her older brother Kraus had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsui without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. Eva herself had thought that, since her name would be moved over to the Ushiromiya register when she got married anyway, or outside, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then one day, she had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe it was the whispering of the devil that she had listened to and agreed. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the Ushiromiya register? If things went well, might she have a chance to inherit the Ushiromiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he had approved of it. He had approved of it instantly. This wasn't because Hideyoshi also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, it was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. So when they got married, he hadn't fussed over which last name they were to keep. He had quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Ushiromiya family register. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kinzo, but as his daughter, Eva knew Kinzo's personality well, so by choosing the time when Kinzo was most dissatisfied with Natsuhi, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Man. I like the idea of being, like, super angry that your children aren't having babies. Like, that's a normal thing, you know. Looking at Hideyoshi, who had achieved success after starting from nothing, Kinzo might have seen a little bit of himself. It's rough being rich, it must be. It must be terrible. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Ushiromiya register. George would eventually become the successor to the Ushiromiya family. They had raised him strictly with that purpose in mind. He had been worth their while and had grown into a fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. Definitely sounded like seagulls there. That was why he had not been permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. So when she learned that Shannon was dead and the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome crime, part of her had also been relieved that her dear George wouldn't be stolen by some servant girl. Part of the song.
私
I
クラウス兄さんの
have
こと
hated Kraus Nissan
昔
since
から
long
嫌い
ago.
な偉そうで
He was so
威張って
full of
て
himself, always swaggering around.
自分がやがては当主になるのだと自慢してて
You might say that. So proud that he would one day become the head.
だか
But I wanted to get
ら
back
そ
to
れ
him.
に一矢報いてでもそれは
Was
子
that
供
just
の
a
頃の感
childish
情なの
emotion?
よでもその感
But in
情
the
は
end, that emotion guided my entire
それ
life.
だけならまだい
If
い
that had been all, then it would have been fine.
その感情
But
は
because of that emotion,
あ
I
な
got
た
you
やジョ
and
ージまで
George
巻き込ん
involved.
で
I
振り回
used
して
you.
しまった
Eva,
Eva, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Eva's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him. Well, I reached the halfway point in my life long ago. But you know, I have absolutely no regrets about how I've lived my life. Not one. I think that since I've been with you, Eva, I've been able to relish and enjoy life that other men never will. After I lost my relatives in the war, you reminded me what the warmth of family is. So I'm grateful to the Ushiromiya family and think of it as my only one. In this life I've led with you, not a single thing's been wasted. It's really been a fun life up till today.
ありがとう
Thank you,
あなた
darling. Eva hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. Probably no one in the parlor could even imagine that this side of Eva existed. No one should be thanking you. Until today, there hasn't been a single day I've regretted being with you.
私もよ
Me too.
あなたと一緒
I'm
に
so glad to have you by my side.
よかった
George is already a fine adult. Even if I don't look out for him, he's a man who could do his job well on his own. I wonder, around New Year's, do you want to go spend some time in the Maldives? Just us, no one else.
嫌よ
No way.
毎年
Aren't you always saying that you're so busy responding to New Year's cards that you don't even sleep? None of that this New Year's. I won't read New Year's cards. I'll just stay quiet and check to see if we've won the New Year's lottery. It'd sure be nice if we won a color TV this year.
やだ
No way.
モルジブで
I
落
don't
とし
want
た
to
み
waste
くじ
time
のチェ
checking
ッ
the
クなん
lottery
てし
while
た
in the
くない
Maldives. Then none of that either. How does it sound? Just the two of us, taking it easy like when we were newlyweds, just before George was born. Yes.
それならいい
In
わ
that
ね
case, fine. Here, the Maldives are wonderful. An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs and cottages lined up over the water.
新婚時代の
Like when
続
we were
き
newlyweds, you say.
いつから
Starting
の
when... As soon as I finish up some business. I won't know till I ask the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve.
いや
No way.
今
Right now.
すぐ
I
が
want to go right now. Eva nagged at his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sound that filled the room were the distant voices of the announcer on the news, which Hideyoshi had left on, and the obnoxious pounding of the rain against the window. I've never thought of rain on a window as obnoxious. It's usually a calming, good sound. It also usually hasn't trapped me in a mansion where murders have happened, so... You know, there's that. There was a knock on the door and Genji-san entered. Madam,
お夕食の
dinner
準
has
備
been
がお
prepared.
食事は
Will you eat in here
また
again?
こちらでよろしいです。
ええ、
Yes.
ここへ運ばせなさ
Have
い。
it brought here.
南條先生
Is
は
Dr.
ま
Nanjo
だ
still in the
厨房にい
kitchen?
るのですか？
はい。
Yes.
次の一手を熟考したいとおっしゃっております。
He has said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his next
ご
move.
安心
Do
を。
not worry. He is with the other servants.
他の使用人たちと
源氏さんはじいさまの
Genji
相
sounds
手
good
が
enough
で
at
きるくら
chess
い
to be
チェス
grandfather's
が強い
opponent.
もんな。南條先生よりも強い
I
ら
hear
しい
he's
ぜ。
even better than Dr. Nanjo, right?
そうなんだ。
That's right.
昔
Long
相
ago
手
he
をして
played
もらっ
against
た
me,
こと
but he
がある
must
け
have let
ど、
me win.
あれは
マリア、も
Maria,
うすぐ
sounds like
飯だ
it'll
そ
be
うだ
time
ぜ
to eat soon.
しかし
But look at you. You've been watching TV all day long and you still haven't gotten bored. Ooh.
いつもテレビいっぱい
I'm
見て
always
る
watching
から
TV, so I'm fine. You have multiple personalities? One of them can't stop oohing, and the other seems manically obsessed with witches. I don't know if fine is the word I'd use. Ooh.
え
Hey,
え、マリ
Maria
アちゃん
Chan
は
sure is a
テレビ
TV
っ子
kid.
なんだね。
食事だから
Hey,
机の上を
Maria
片
Chan
付けない
sure
と
is
ダメだ
a...
ぜ。
food's coming, so we have to clean up the table. Earlier, we had torn several pages out of Maria's notebook, and there was now a mess where everyone had been drawing together. Jessica began cleaning it up quickly. Still, everyone really can draw. I'd never guessed. Yeah,
源氏、
Genji.
エヴァさんたちにも
Ask Eva-san and
せめて
Hideyoshi-san
食事
whether
くらい
they'd
一
at
緒に
least
し
like
な
to
い
have
か
dinner
と
with us.
どうせ断るでしょうが。
No, I'm not doing that. I have no doubt that I could. I'm not doing that.
かしこまりました。
Certainly.
お父様の次はエヴァさんですか。
Okay.
You'd go to proc it and it would still take like 45 seconds for it to just randomly pick one. First father and now Eva-san.
つくづく
It's quite hard to gather everyone to the Ushiramiya dinner table.
全員が揃いませんね。
Natsui felt her headache starting to throb again and lightly held her temples. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself, but the guest room was a little further away. Natsue had warned him to avoid being alone whenever possible, and just now Nanjo had also admonished him, saying it would be better if he held a little more concern for his safety. Whew. Yeah. It's... Look, they all convinced me to put it in there. It's the character I hate the most from a game. It's her signature line. But it's on a half-hour cooldown. You can have it once a half hour. Nanjo would also admonish him, saying it would be better if he had a little more concern for his safety. Kanon accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Eva and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Genji knocked on the door.
エヴァ様、
Eva-sama, Hideyoshi-sama.
お夕食の
Dinner
準
has
備
been
が整い
prepared.
ました。
He waited a short while for them to come out, but there was no response.
源氏様、
Genji-sama, look at
これ
this.
は
Kanon pointed under the door. A western envelope had been inserted under it. Normally, when something was inserted this way, to be interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room. So since this might be a private note meant for Eva and Hideyoshi, it was not something that Kanon and Genji were supposed to take interest in. Yet, Smash Invite number 2, Eva is invited to Smash, but this western envelope was one of Kinzo's, the same kind as the one Maria had taken out last night and surprised everyone with.
間違いない。
There could be no mistake.
親方様の封筒だ。
It is one of the master's envelopes.
あるいは
Or could it be? Even though this was one of Kinzo's envelopes, the letter Maria read out loud the previous night hadn't come from Kinzo. He heard us talking. I'm glad that one came up eventually. Genji continued knocking a little harder and called out in a loud voice. Eva-sama.
エヴァ様
Eva-sama.
源氏でござ
It
いま
is
す
Genji.
いらっしゃいま
Are
す
you
か
there?
お返事をお願いいたし
Please
ます
answer,
エヴァ
Eva-sama.
様
There was no response from inside. Sometimes when the servants went to call some guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply that they wouldn't wake up. You know, I hate to say the sound effect commands are sub-only, with like one exception. That one is. But, I'm sure somebody else will be able to pop it as well if you'd like. But also, hey, Real Lazio? I hope that's correct. Welcome to Viperland in the chat. How you doing? Yeah. It is set to randomly pick how far away it sounds like he's screaming Beatrice back at you. Oh, damn, 2? That quick? It's straight up like a 1 in 20 chance, but, you know, that's how dice work. He's coming back. Yeah, he ran all the way away to run all the way back. In times like that, the servants would stick a letter in the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest be. Oh, I was going to say, sleeping the sleep that only the wealthy with not a care in the world could possibly sleep. But despite that, Genji beat even harder on the door and called out Eva's name. However, there was no answer. Cannon stuck his ear up to the door, held his breath, and listened for any sounds coming from inside.
テレビの音らしきもの
I hear something that sounds like the television.
でも
But
気
I
配
don't
が感じ
sense
られません
anyone.
お部屋は
The
空っぽ
room
か
might be
も
empty. Genji took out a handkerchief and, careful not to touch it with his bare hands, gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Also, no, Potts is doing Sundays. Lately, they're doing 999 with separate group, but occasionally we'll pop in like after that ends. So, I mean, even if they locked it with the chain, shouldn't the door be unlocked? Couldn't they, like, open the door and look through the gap? You will never succeed at that, Ramen. Like, good luck. I'm not saying don't try. I don't know how you... I don't think that's possible. I just don't. But hey, I'm often wrong, so... Without a doubt, the mark on that sealing wax had come from the Ushiromiya family head's ring. Death by 1,000 cuts.
エヴァ様
Eva-sama.
どうかお返事を
I mean, look, this was enough Viper tickets, and the combination of it being on stream 1 day a week. So it's not... And let's be honest, I've kind of gone through... The last big game on my backlog was... Or on my visual novel backlog that I planned to stream was Disco Elysium. So I kind of don't have a backlog when it comes to Sunday story-based visual novels. I have a ton of backlog for other things, but this isn't knocking anything off of a list. Yeah, look, not for nothing, we have gone through, like, that's true, there is the other Ace Attorneys, and I do want to play those, but those don't need to be, like, bumped up. I can wait, like, that's not a huge rush. I do want to play them, and I will at some point, but it didn't have to be a hurry. Please answer, are you still in your room? But there was still no answer. There was a chance that those two were aimlessly walking around the mansion. A slim chance. This was the home of home Eva had grown up in. There was plenty of reason to think that she'd gone out on a casual stroll. Any other day, maybe. But, you know. Genji groped around in his pocket and pulled out the bundle of keys which contained the key that would open the guest room.
ケンジ様
Genji-sama. Cannon also understood what this meant. They would sometimes unlock doors so they can go in and do things like make the beds, but only after they made sure the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, and especially to do so when there was a chance the guest hadn't given permission and might still be in there, was an action unbecoming of a servant. And there's a backlog now. This one's backlog, but, you know. Yeah, apparently you have. The concept of planning out what I'm going to do after Umineko when we're on chapter 1 of Umineko is a decision. But Genji had decided if the only problem had been that his knock hadn't received a reply, he wouldn't have gone this far. But the envelope under the door was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's. Or rather, one of the western envelopes of the Ushiromiya family head. After last night, the sender of this envelope could be someone other than Kinzo. If this letter had been sent by someone else, Eva-sama.
申し訳ご
My
ざいません。
apologies.
お部屋を
Allow me
失
to
礼させ
enter
て
your
いた
room.
だきます。
After giving that final notice, Genji stuck one of the keys from his bundle into the keyhole. There was the sound of the door unlocking, and after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. Light seeped through the crack in the door. Were they in the room, or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? Clank. It was the sound of the door chain being pulled tight. Okay, so they did lock both. They locked the door and they had the chain on. The chain had been secured. The chain couldn't be secured from the outside, so it also proved that they were in the room. The sound of voices on the TV seeped out of the room. The lights, the chain, and the TV. All of these things made it clear they were in the room. There was no sign of them. Genji called Eva once again through the crack in the door. There was no answer.
源氏様、いか
Genji-sama,
がしますか？
what should we do? As part of their job, the servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion, but they had no way to open a door with a chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it. That was certainly not permitted as part of servants' usual work. A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Yeah, totally fine. Cannon held his breath again and tried to sense someone through the door, but even so, he was not able to sense anyone.
私は奥
I
様
will
を
call
お呼びして
Madam in
くるカノ
return.
ンのチェーン
Cannon,
を切
cut
断。
the chain. Yes. Higurashi is shorter than Umineko. Yeah, lots of things are shorter than Umineko. You could have me read all of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit on stream, and it would be shorter than Umineko. So, yeah, you're right, but the bar is set wildly off in the distance. Yeah, yep, it would be shorter. Correct. As Kennen hurried away to get a cutting tool, Genji called him to a stop.
待てカノン。
Wait, Kennen.
厨房に戻り
Return to the kitchen and take
熊沢と
Kumasawa
行動
with
する
you.
よう断じて
You must not
一
act
人で
alone.
行動してはならんぞ。
はい、
Yes.
かしこまりました。
Cold Steel 2. Fair. That's assuming I read every single line of dialogue in the entire script, which is unlikely, but still, point stands. Yes, certainly. It looked like Cannon was wondering, technically, if we go by the every single line of dialogue in the script, doesn't 100 line also count as over Umineko? Looked like Cannon was wondering why he had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation. But Genji had said it out of wariness. He didn't care what happened to himself. But in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything to happen to Cannon. It includes repeated dialogue. Oh, okay. Longer if you can be signed individually. Okay, gotcha. In the kitchen, Kumasama was piling food in the servant car. I need to sit down and go through more endings of that game. I just haven't had the push to go back to it. But, even the endings I got were phenomenal. Hell, even the base route is phenomenal. But I obviously need to do more. Yeah, if I did all of them over time. I was definitely on the Killing Games route. That was definitely... And I had already done Darumi. Darumi was one of the ones that I did. I didn't do hers first. Because I was prioritizing a different character to get to the ending I got first. Then the second time I was like, no, I want to prioritize Darumi, and got her ending. So I have done that. And it is a very good route. Nothing prepared me for Darumi going from, oh yeah, comic relief character. Oh wait, no, she's the best character in this game. Oh yeah, it's Darumi all the way down. Damn, okay. Can't wait. Oh, so good. It's so good. And the one that I got the first time was definitely the Power of Friendship ending. I don't remember the exact title for it, but it was definitely the everyone worked together and Power of Friendship. And it was good, but it wasn't Darumi. But I'm definitely on the Killing Games route now, and I was a little ways in, but I definitely didn't finish it. In the kitchen, Kumasama was piling food. The servant cart, Nanjo was waiting for Genji, apparently waiting to show him a move he'd finally thought up that might turn the tables on him. Okay, coming of age, that's the one. But Genji's appearance immediately told him that something was wrong. Oh, what has happened, Genji-san?
源氏さん、南條先生。
Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please allow this match to be suspended for the
この
time
勝
being.
負はカノンはチェーンを頼む。
Yeah, so that was my, like, making the decisions I wanted to make on with blind, not knowing anything about anything. That was the route that I got for my first ending. Take care of the chain.
熊沢、
Kumasama, stop setting up dinner for now and accompany Ken.
私は奥
I
様
will go over to Madam.
南條先生。
If you would come with me, Dr. Nanjo. Has something happened? Genji took Nanjo, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen.
熊沢さん
Fan service route. Oh, I've only heard of that. Yeah, that seems like a time indeed. Look, sometimes you just have to out yaoi your Fujoshi player base. I, again, haven't actually gone through it, but I've heard. I've heard. Kumasawa-san, my apologies, but please come with me.
僕と一緒に来てください
Oh, Toxic Yaoi route is a separate one. Oh, I would have assumed those were the same. I didn't know. Well, damn. I had no idea. What's happened, Canon-san? Kumasawa said almost exactly the same thing as Nanjo. Yeah, when you come into a room and be like, drop everything you're doing, follow us, don't ask questions, the first question is going to be, what's going on? Pretty much every time, yeah. Unable to take in the situation, and chased after Cannon, who had flown out into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Cannon went to a storage room and looked through the tools, packed in toolboxes and hanging all over the walls, trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain. What are you looking for? Let me help too.
ドアチェーンを
We're
切
cutting
断
a
するん
door
です
chain.
大きめの番
What
線
was
カ
that
ッター
large wire cutter? Door chain? Why would you do something like that?
エヴァ様たちの
They
部屋
chained to
にチェーン
Eva-sama and Hideyoshi-sama's room.
中にいらっしゃる
Even
は
though
ずなの
they
に
should be inside, they
お
didn't
声
answer
をか
when
け
we
ても
called them.
返事がないんで
It
す
took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and Eva and Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she did realize that this was an urgent situation.
これなら多分
That one will probably do the trick. Kennen took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It's called a cutter, but maybe it'd be easier to understand if we said it was shaped like a large pair of pliers. Kennen remembered once being warned that this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. Kennen took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively. He should fight for every minute, every second to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already... How dare you, Ramen? Please wait, Kennen-san. So, look, if all they did is cut through them, that scene would not have been as scarring.
早く
Hurry. If it was just wire cutters to digits, you know? Beirut was a time, yeah. There really is no other way to put that. That was something we went through on stream. That happened. Kumasawa eventually caught up with him, gasping for breath with both hands on her knees. When Kennen changed his grip on the wire cutters and looked up at the door, he let out an ah, struck speechless. What? What is this? Yeah, like... And then, you know, Chaos Child brought us boxes. It's not quite the same. But I still think that's the most messed up thing I've seen in a visual novel. We didn't see chicken fingers. It was described vividly, don't get me wrong, but I think for things that actually were shown on screen, that is the most messed up thing I've seen in a visual novel. Not to say there's not worse out there, because it probably is, and I haven't played Sayano Uta, but boxes, man, that was a lot. That was a lot. Kumasawa screamed weakly, her face pallid. That was no surprise, because right there, on the door, just like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse, there was another eerie shape drawn with a blood-like paint. However, it would be odd to call this one a magic circle. because unlike what most people would expect, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn inside it, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. However, those strange characters filling in the gaps which weren't from the alphabet were the same kind as the ones of the magic circle in the shutter. The thing that had Cannon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magic circle was, it was that something like this hadn't been here a short while ago. First, he had taken a trip back to the kitchen. After that, he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Yeah, it's circle-ish in a square sort of way. Put those together and it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. How could someone add something this creepy during that period of time? And as though it had just been drawn, almost like the door itself was bleeding. Several unsettling vertical red lines slowly dripped down, getting longer and longer. No, that's fair. Kumasawa's knees gave way and she sank down on the spot. If Kumasawa hadn't done this first, then Cannon surely would have wanted to. Beatrice-sama. It's the work of Beatrice-sama. How horrid! How horrid! There's like 20 variations of volume, but it really just ends up being like half of them sound loud and half of them sound very quiet. I put the exact same amount of difference of amplitude between them, but it really just comes down to like some of them sound very loud and some of them sound not very loud at all. But whatever, it's random. Cannon gulped, then readied the wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magic circle, and he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood. But if he didn't get close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again, and after gathering his courage, he went even closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all of his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he'd anticipated. The cut chain fell into 2 separate parts, which continued to clang as they swayed back and forth. Cannon-san, there's an envelope by your feet. And isn't that the master's... Wait, didn't they take the previous... Is there another one? Okay. Looked like Kumasawa had also noticed the western envelope at the bottom. Oh, maybe they didn't reach it. I thought he grabbed it with a handkerchief so he didn't get like fingerprints on it. Did they put it back? That sealing wax had been sealed with the head's ring. Cannon hesitated for just a second over whether he should have opened the letter first or checked inside the room. Okay, so they didn't take out the letter. Never mind. But he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Cannon pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This was so he wouldn't leave any fingerprints on the door. If his worst fears were realized, the police would want to investigate this room too. He slowly pushed the door open. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time.
Eva-sama.
Eva-sama? Eva was lying face up on the bed with her shoes still on. Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Cannon and who's hiding behind his back, screamed a short eek again when she saw Eva like that. Eva's shoes had been the first part of her that Cannon had seen, so the oddness of wearing shoes in bed was the first thing to strike him. But when Eva's head shifted into his line of sight, Cannon couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Right in the middle of Eva's forehead, something had been placed? Something was growing there. A red tree? No. Right in the center of her forehead. Was it an old-fashioned knife? That or some weapon, like it was sticking out. That's at the base where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, staining the sheets on the other side bright red. See, coffee would give us the answer. Fishing a second body discovery. Yep. FK in the coffee, yeah?
Fishing!
Deadly Premonition has left a undeniable mark. Good or bad, you know, depends on the day, but undeniable. Well, there's your mackerel. Congrats. Kumasawa's knees gave way once more as she sank down on the floor. Her mouth kept flapping open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. Eva was dead, with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead. Both eyes were open wide, and the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though her forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear their eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into Ava's forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. And on the handle was a complicated design that you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. That thing could be summed up with the word occult. It was a vulgar object with a design that might have been of some demon. What about Hideyoshi-sama? Hideyoshi-sama! Eva was on top of her bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. At the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by steam and the sound of a shower. The bathroom was of the same familiar style as most hotel bathrooms. When taking a shower, a waterproof curtain was used to keep water from flying out. Oh. The waterproof curtain was half open, and lying tumbled down in the bathtub was Hideyoshi, completely naked with both eyes open, and pointing right at Cannon. Just like Eva, a weapon with a demon-like design was stuck into his forehead. Since his head had been under the shower's hot water this whole time, his face wasn't half covered and filthy with blood like Ava's had been. But the sight of him dead while still taking a shower was tragic enough. Just then, they heard Natsui's voice coming from the hall. She was probably coming with Genji. Again with this graffiti. What about this letter? What does it say inside? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. Update now if you want more. Ooh. Channel points. Oh, that's pretty good. I didn't notice it because there was already... I clearly... I know it's there. I know you're not lying, but I clearly don't notice it too often. Found in the bed of a guest room inside the mansion with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of her forehead. I thought... Okay, it's a demonic ice pick, sure. Found in the bathroom of the same guest room that Eva was found in. Like Eva, there was a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. You can't see either of them by looking through the gap in the door while the chain is set. You can't see them, so you can't reach them. Hey, how could a human possibly kill them? A lot's going on, yeah. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it. We shouldn't touch it carelessly. The culprit's fingerprints might be left on it. We should hand it over to the police. They went out of their way to leave it here. I'm sure they wouldn't have left fingerprints. As Natsui said that, she picked up the envelope. And before checking its contents, she entered the room herself, where she found Eva dead. Eva-san! Madam, Hideyoshi-sama is here too. This is truly atrocious. Kennen, turn off the shower. Don't let this be any more pitiful than it needs to be. Yes, ma'am. Kennen gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. In the bathtub, a small jar of bloody soap had fallen with its cap off. So, there were 6 in the original group of dead. 2 more, and the grandfather's missing. So we're still in chapter 1, and we have halved the population of this mansion. Assuming the grandfather's dead, he might not be dead, but he's currently not around. I'm sure it's fine. Yes. In the bathtubs. Oh, I read that. Yes. Chapter 1 of 8. Yeah. It really looked like he'd been attacked while taking a shower. There was still a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub, and the combination of red and white made a horrible contrast. One slice of life. Dr. Nanjo. I believe their cause of death is stabbing to the forehead. No signs of post-mortem lividity. Rigor mortis hasn't begun either. It would seem that an hour or so has passed since they were killed. But even so, how a weapon with such a short handle could do that to the skull? I cannot imagine. Nanjo checked their pulses and their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. As Kennen watched this business-like treatment, he thought, couldn't you tell at a glance that they're dead without doing all that? Nanja thought about removing the weapon, and then decided it'd be better to preserve the scene and hand it over to the police, so he left it alone. Stab of life. But a close inspection of the base showed that it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that rather than a knife, it was more like a short-handled spear, something with a shape better suited for thrusting than slicing. Rather than a short spear, you might call it a thick ice pick. At any rate, after looking at this scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of terrible purposes such eerily designed weapons were originally made for, nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Natsui, hoping to escape the repulsive steam filling the bathroom as soon as she could, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and dashed from the room. Just viewing their gruesome bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. If she looked any longer, that image would surely remain in her vision for all eternity. The rising urge to vomit was exactly the same feeling that she'd had that morning at the gardening storehouse. For a while, Natsui couldn't help but stand with her back facing the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach. At any rate, we can't let the children... We can't let George-kun see this room. Seal this room with all haste. Yes, we mustn't let them see. If George-san saw his parents in this brutal state. But they could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George, even before he came dashing into the room. Lifetime trauma? George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor. However, when they saw Genji speak to Natsui, when they saw her turn pale and fly out of the parlor, they'd felt a sense of foreboding. And when they saw a large group of people gathered around the guest room, they were sure of it. Father! Mother! What is this? Another magic circle? Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi are safe, right? Hey, Kanon-kun! What's this all about? Battler-sama. Kennen didn't have to say anything. George's scream after he ran into the room told them everything they needed to know. Who did this? I'll kill you! I'll kill you! George-kun. Hang in there. Natsui touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook it off. George fell over beside Eva and buried his face into the bed in front of his mother's face, wailing. Then he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again. George, Nissan. Hang in there. Huh? Battler? Battler-sama. Battler had his back against the wall of the hallway. He was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint. Horrible. It's horrible. He proposed to the girl he loved and lost her the next day. And on the same day, even his mom and dad were killed. Isn't that too harsh? Of course, it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is. But to Battler, those left alone by the deaths of others were far more worthy of pity. Everyone here now had lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied. However, George's pain was far greater than anyone else's. Battler. I know everyone dies sooner or later. If you're human, you'll eventually reach a time where you've got to fight the sorrow of losing someone close to you. But still, shouldn't that day be far in the future for Aniki? And shouldn't those deaths visit him one at a time? Horrible. It's too horrible. That bastard. That bastard. Doesn't he have even a speck of human sympathy in him? Ooh. Battler, don't cry. Don't cry. Rhea tried to comfort Battler in a mechanical-sounding voice. Battler violently wiped his tears. Yeah. Damn it, I won't cry anymore. Tears of regret, tears of sadness, I won't shed them again. It's all useless. The witches got me backed into a corner. I'm always on the defensive. That's useless. It's all useless. I'll spin the chessboard around. That bastard probably thinks we'll be running scared like sheep until tomorrow before we try anything. But guess what? I'll spin it around!
明日までこの島から逃げられる
Bastard can't escape this island until tomorrow either. We won't be hiding away piercing ourselves. That bastard will. I'll expose you. You'll see. By tomorrow. No, screw tomorrow. Tonight. Before tonight's over, I'll be gripping you by the collar. It's a hell of a proclamation. I'm sure it'll be that easy.
とにかく
At any rate, we'll
この
lock
部屋
this
は
room and
警
leave
察が来
everything
る
as
ま
it
で
is until
こ
the
のまま
police
に
come.
いいですね
No objections, I take it? Natsui announced it as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had a right to object, it would be George, but he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. George nodded slightly, still facing away from the others. And when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsui still hadn't opened that western envelope with the family head that she'd picked up. Excuse me. But now that they decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor, where everyone could watch. As soon as they walked into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, or maybe sensed something strange. Ooh. Stinks? Did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the hallway, one that none of them had smelled until then. Oh, no, the food was being plated, right? I'll go quickly check the kitchen. I'm sure I turned the flame off. After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just been using the burner in the kitchen, suspected that her own slip-up had caused it. Kumasawa hastily dashed away. Kennen, go with Kumasawa. Do not let her be alone. Yes. After nodding at Genji's order, Kennen followed after. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. Could totally mean nothing, yeah. A strange smell in a house full of people being slowly killed off, definitely... Nah. Ooh, stinks. Yeah, sure it does. Ooh. It truly is a stench that makes the nose wrinkle. However, that doesn't mean we can just open a window for ventilation. I mean, it would ventilate pretty quick. Natsui was reluctant to open the window in a situation where self-defense was so important. Let us run the fan. I do not believe there to be any need to open the windows. George Aniki, is it okay if I talk to you? It's about finding the culprit that I have no problems. It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who had stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. The chain for this room was set. From what I could tell by looking at it, I'm positive it couldn't be opened from the outside, short of cutting it. In other words, this was a perfect closed room. It does seem to be the case. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the shutter key out of the servant room. Or maybe they had a duplicate key. I can imagine many ways they could have done it. This chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, the chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with. Only a chain will block everyone coming from the outside as long as it isn't physically broken. So does this mean the culprit couldn't have gone in or out through the door? It's interesting. Just a few hours ago, I seem to remember everyone making a fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. Back then, we were all losing our cool, wondering how grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt on Eva stuck to the door on a whim proved that the door had remained sealed. And since, I can be impulsive times, I have never once, on a whim, folded up a receipt, jammed it in a door, just cause. Since Aunt Natsui was the only person to enter or exit during the time, she was under suspicion. And Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsui might have thrown grandfather out the window and left by the door herself. Yeah. Yep, same. This door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain. Okay. This is going to be the biggest nitpick so far in this playthrough. And I know that. I know it's stupid, and it does not play into anything. The door that they showed in the picture had hinges on the right-hand side, the doorknob on the left-hand side. But this door has hinges on the left-hand side and opens on the right. Just saying. That's realistically the answer is they just use the same door asset again, and that is perfectly fine and an effective cost-cutting measure. But, but I couldn't let it not be said. But this door was much simpler, sealed from the inside by the door chain. The window had also been locked from the inside, and the bodies had been inside the room. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases have occurred, and all 3 times the door has been a point of interest. The first was the shutter. There was a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew about that, this can't really be called a closed room. The next was the door sealed by the receipt. However, Aunt Natsui entered that room. So if grandfather had left through the window or had been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or, like my theory, grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you really can't call this one a closed room either. And now we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It was a perfectly closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second hadn't been a closed room because Aunt Natsui could be suspected. But this time, no one could be suspected. This was a perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well. In that case, did the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? Was some method from outside the room? Good point. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it a small crack. Did the culprit knock on the door to make them peer out before attacking them? Wait, am I missing something? Yeah, you are. If Aunt Eva's body had been lying right next to the door, then it might have been possible. But she was on the bed at the back of the room, and Uncle Hideyoshi was even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack in the door, you couldn't even see them, and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Damn it, it's all useless. I don't have a clue. Something was tugging softly at my sleeve. It was Maria. Ooh. Satisfied? He did ask for this. What do you mean satisfied? Battler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish, saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right? Well, Beatrice granted that wish. Just as you asked, she did something that was completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. And now you're complaining? How selfish. It's pretty crazy, yeah. Ouch! I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly, on the head with my fist. Yes, tapped with a fist. Sure, thanks for granting that wish. That just now was to thank you and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate. More importantly, tell me, there was another mysterious scribble on the door to Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Was that another magic circle? That one had a really memorable and characteristic design, so I'd hoped you'd at least know what it was. Ouch. I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the credit. Quit whining and explain. You sure are violent, Battler. I won't tell you if you're too mean, get it? Ouch. Ugh. I'll say it, stop hitting me. That's the first magic circle of the moon.
何の意味がある？
We should have known, guys. It was killing Wei the whole time. The signs were there. All, like, it's so obvious. Why didn't we see it? Wait, is a witch actually hit character secretly? Yeah, obviously. If only I had seen the obvious in front of us. What does it mean?
その魔法陣のご利益は
What is this magic circle's effect?
書かれてるヘ
What
ブラ
does
イ
the
語の意味
Hebrew
は
writing mean? The words are from the Old Testament, Psalms 107, verse 16, where he has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of iron. This magic circle has two effects. First, it can open a door regardless of which method has been used to lock it.
そりゃ便利だな
Sure, it's
魔法だぜ
convenient.
つまり
So you're saying they're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed room is the door that can't be opened without relying on magic.
もう一つの効用は
And the other effect? When you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens a door. By using it in a difficult situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't even thought of until then. Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation and discernment, inspiration and intuition. Beatrice is trying to provoke you, since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how this door was opened. Ouch.
よーしもう黙れ
I do think he's on the right solution to this, though. The having her laugh maniacally problem, not the murders. Okay, good work, so shut up. Sounds great. I'll accept this challenge from the witch.
マリアちゃん、
Raya-chan.
この世に魔
Things
女
like
も悪
witches
魔
and
も
demons
存
don't
在しない
exist in this world.
父さんと母さんは
Someone killed father and
誰
mother.
かが殺したそれが僕
I
の
don't know
よく知
whether
る
that
人
was
間
someone
な
I
の
know
か
or
でも
not. But either way, it
そ
was
のどちら
definitely
で
a
あっても
human.
必ず
しかし
Yeah, but how?
せいぜい10センチ
How
程
did they
度
reach
しか
those
開
two
かな
through
い
that
扉
crack
の
in the
隙間か
door?
ら
It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide.
それにして
At
も
any
耐
rate,
え
I
難
can
い
hardly
ものです
stand this stench. What in the
一
world
体
could
何
it
事
be?
なのですか
You almost got up at the stench with all the maniacal laughter and child punching. Kanon and Kumasawa. One of the episodes of It's Always Sunny we watched today ended with two of the gang just straight up beating the snot out of a bunch of kids, and the laughter that escaped Calico was powerful. As someone who has had we had so many snow days that, like, I think she said like the 25th or something this year, and like summer rain for humans and kids has already started. Oh, so hey Birdie, hot damn, 99-month tier 3 is insane. Crap, that's a lot.
99,999,999 months.
Yeah,
I
basically.
can only count to 4. Happy subbing.
Holy crap, Birdie. Thank you so much. That's insane and amazing. I hope you're having a good weekend, or had a good weekend. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, very much like I can just imagine like the next time a kid is like an extra little bastard. It's just that scene playing through, you know. I totally forgot. Like, I haven't seen the current season, but I've seen most of It's Always Sunny, and we're getting there. I think we're on season 13 now. And I think the current one is 15, 16. So we're getting there. Always good to hear. Always good to hear. I mean, unless you're dreading work on Mondays, usually Sundays are a nice chill time, you know? Full of happy times in games, too. Kennen and Kumasawa, who had gone ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen even before they arrived there. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on the way to the kitchen.
ボイラー室
The boiler room.
また
I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. I don't know what could possibly go wrong with a boiler that would make a horrible burning smell, but you know... Yes, those stairs led to the underground boiler room. The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they had never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this before. Slam. What was that sound? The thing they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Kumasawa was so surprised at the sound that her knees gave way yet again and she cowered. After all, at that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. No, that's false. The grandfather could be. Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva and Hideyoshi's room. So who caused the sound of a door closing just now? Cannon-san! After taking a second to sort out the situation, Cannon ran down towards the basement. Since they'd heard the sound of a door closing just now, there was no sign of anyone coming up the stairs, the person who'd closed the door had to be inside the boiler room. If the boiler room had been a dead end, Cannon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily, but Cannon was a servant, so he knew there were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Cannon did, but she couldn't let him go alone. If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder, then no matter how Cannon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. At any rate, after a delay, Kumasawa decided she mustn't let Cannon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs. At that time, Cannon was already in the boiler room. The boiler room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. It had always been an unpleasantly smelly and hot place, and on top of that, the room was full of that horrid stench, which made Cannon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Cannon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Cannon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet from a tool shelf just off the side of the door. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he'd wanted a hatchet. He had wanted to grab a weapon of any kind. Why? Cannon gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered. In roulette, you bet on a number or the colors red or black, vying for a payout. However, low-risk bets like black and red only offer a similarly low payout. The words coming from Cannon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. That darkness suddenly started to swirl, glittering. This is fine. This is fine. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden, sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room, flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Cannon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies up. But as the butterflies gathered in the darkness, they probably they would certainly laugh. But Cannon continued to speak without faltering in the slightest. However, if you bet on something with a lower probability, your payoff increases proportional to the risk. The master called succeeding despite an astronomical risk a miracle, and called the astronomical payoff gained as a result magic. I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that roulette, but you forgot something. You forgot that in roulette there's a pocket that's neither black nor red. The roulette had a special pocket called 0, which meant that the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. This means that all of the coins bet on the table would be swept up just as though everyone had forfeit. I set my heart on just one thing. I decided that if Shannon were to be killed and I was left alive, I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. This isn't one of the master's rules, and it certainly isn't one of yours. I made this rule myself. I'm not furniture anymore. I'm the 0 on your roulette. Cannon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear that his defiance against his own weakness was being ridiculed somehow. Cannon's brow creased even further, and a fierce expression that he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops which slid downwards. It was clear that the emotion causing Cannon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Cannon suppressed that emotion. I won't let your words lead me astray again. This is where the demon's roulette ends. I didn't realize we were at chapter 8 already. Damn, crazy.
地獄にて
Wait
さら
another
に攻め
1,000 years in hell for your next
次
summoner.
の召喚者を待つがいい。ベアドリーチ
When Cannon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness defiantly sneered. It sneered at that courage as if it were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. Man, those butterflies loud as hell. Sure. Mm-hmm. Cannon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. Following that, with a pair of thuds, Cannon's knees hit left then right. That hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Well, right there, a handle with a demon-shaped design was buried into his chest. The same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was in Cannon's chest. Cannon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Cannon's white skin. Around the scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Cannon had already been prepared for his own death, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. Don't. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant bloop sound. It probably resembled the sound of Cannon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead.
Cannon-san?
Someone! Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Cannon was lying in a pool of blood. Yeah. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. What a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him. What incredible luck! If I had been with him, I might have been killed too! As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion, and all of the muscles of her face were pulled up, almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. What is it, Kumasawa? Answer me, Kumasawa. First one to dash in was Natsui, holding the rifle. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally, they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violent stench filling the boiler room. But after they saw Cannon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Cannon, answer me. Genji, bring Dr. Nanjo here. Natsui realized that even though Cannon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsui, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted, "Who's hiding over there? Come on out quietly. If you don't come out from there, I'll shoot without mercy. We need a light. Natsui, let's light them up." Battler, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf along the side of the door and used his light to cut through the darkness Natsui was glaring into. But the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping in a door. The door had been left open a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. Natsui, where does that door go? Genji, where does that door lead to? The courtyard. Like hell I let you get away, you damn bastard! Battler let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Battler ran up them shouting, "Wait, Battler-kun! It's dangerous to go alone. It's dangerous to be on your own right now. Loudly theorizing, yapping out chapter 1. Good to know, good to know. Natsui was also rushing up the stairs chasing after Battler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. I believe you. I mean, Pepe Sylvia is not real, but I understand. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sounds of strong winds. It was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Battler spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in the scenery. There was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were 2 entrances into the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. He didn't know which one they'd had left through. Like, I get the concept of you can't get to the courtyard unless you were already inside the mansion. But it's still just weird to build a door without a lock. But if you're rich on an island you own that nobody else can go to, but then why lock any of the doors? Because I guess somebody could take a boat up to it. You know. Logic and reasoning. He didn't know which one they had left through. He had to give up. Battler pounded the wall with his fist, swearing, Battler-kun, you mustn't run ahead by yourself. Battler-kun. Battler pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi. And now Cannon-kun. He killed a full 6 people. And that wasn't enough, so he had to kill 3 more. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind and fun. To you. To you. Eva had some, less kind words for others. I just met Cannon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along fine with him. Why did you kill all of them? Rich plus eccentric, yes, yeah. For sure. And, like, they definitely go out of the way to show that, like, these are definitely eccentric rich people. Just make, why did you kill them? Why? Why? You know, when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? This is right up there with people die if they're killed. Mm-hmm. They aren't going to quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots. Why'd you kill them? Why? Why? Battler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart, so he cried. With all his strength. Natsui, who had always thought of Battler as a frank person, was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side. At the same time, she understood how easily hurt the heart of a young person could be, so she held him. It's alright. I will definitely protect you, George-kun, Maria-chan, and Jessica. As a mother, and as the representative of the Ushiromiya family. Battler, after sobbing into Natsui's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he had been like that the whole time and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already. Anyway, Let's go back down for now. Protecting ourselves is a higher priority than finding the culprit. Tomorrow the boat will arrive. After that happens, the police will come and everything should be brought to light. There's no way the culprit can escape this island no matter how much they struggle. That's right. When the police come, when the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved. But for some reason, Battler felt a slight sense of uneasiness, as if the seagulls would never cry again. That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. Surely. I returned to the boiler room along with Aunt Natsui and told everyone weakly that we hadn't found anything. We heard that Dr. Nanjo and George Haneke had carried Kanon-kun to the servant room. The servant room had a first aid kit and a sink and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Sawa-san and Jessica had accompanied them. Stains from Kanon-kun's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the large amount of blood lost and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanjo's treatment would probably end in vain. That weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been stuck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's foreheads. Wait, isn't the demonic design of the handle a little different? There seemed to be some small differences in that part. Still, as far as her overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all of the same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we'd left the weapon stuck into Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene, so this was the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. As we had expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick. Or rather, a thin stake. And it had a spiral-shaped pattern, sort of like a drill. Looked like something that might have been driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in some demonic ritual. Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Half of that was the stake-shaped part, which was stained with deep red blood. The length of the blood-staining part made it clear just how deeply it must have penetrated into Kanon-kun's chest. But Aunt Natsui and the rest didn't even look at the weapons, and instead stood up from the incinerator where the horrible stench was emanating from. They must have dragged out that thing which had been burning in the fireplace. It was still smoldering and kept sending out dense waves of that awfully unpleasant smell. Genji-san and Maria stared down at it. Aunt Natsui probably couldn't stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head, her back to it. It's a slightly different ooh. Nothing could surprise me after everything that's happened. But this is... I stood there for a while, moaning with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. That grotesque corpse was in a state where not the face, nor the age, nor even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, I realized that a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. It was grandfather, who had disappeared this morning, and whose whereabouts had been unknown. Also, hey Potts, how's it going? We are still in Chapter 1, and we are down more than half of the cast. That puts us at 10 out of 18, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 out of 18 are dead. We're in Chapter 1 of 8. I believe it is most likely the master. I agree that he would pass away in such a state. It's heartrending. Oh, hope it was a good one. Or an interesting one at least, if not good, you know. 4 kids, Natsui, and 3 servants left. Yeah. Literally. Oh, I guess they're going to update this. But he just found him dead. So, yeah. Miss Migraine, Jessica, George, Battler, Maria, Komasawa, Kanon, Genji, and the good doctor. Knife. Okay. Gotcha. It's heartrending. To be fair, the last 3 here have been killed by knife-ish weapons, too. They keep calling them more like an ice pick, but, you know, knife-ish But is there any proof that the corpse really is grandfather?
こうも黒焦げじゃん。
It's burnt so black you can't even tell what sex it is.
バトラ君、
Battle-kun, look at the feet.
足をご覧なさい。
Aunt Natsui, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet.
両足の指が
Notice how there are 6 toes on each foot?
お
What?
分かりになりませんか？
What? Huh? Ah,
本当だ。
you're right. Just as Genji-san had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe had looked so normal in its line that I hadn't noticed.
親方様
The master was born with 6 toes on both of his feet.
そして
Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Ushiromiya family.
後ろ宮家のさ
後ろ宮家には昔から
I've heard that since
生ま
long
れつ
ago,
き
cases
多
of
の方が多かったそうです。
polydactyly were common in the Ushiromiya family.
多分
It's
遺伝的
probably
なものでしょう。
hereditary. Sure. Sure. Polydactyly means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God, when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits into 2, and the total number increases. But a big deal isn't usually made out of polydactyly in the world at large. It's an inbreeding thing. Yeah. So, you know, wealthy people sure are gonna... Wealth. I mean, why spread the wealth outside the family when you can just keep drawing a family tree that's a straight line? just a column. You know. A real pillar of wealth. That's because it isn't a disease, just something people are born with. So while they are still babies, at about the time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make them normal. Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems that there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. So even though it's not usually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan at the end of the Sengoku period, had 6 fingers on one hand. According to Aunt Natsui, among the many Ushiromiya family heads, the ones most praised for the wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited at the thought he might become another wise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, this 6 toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyly should be treated as gods and revered. This is besides the point, but it's fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burned to hide its identity. But I guess that in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough. And grandfather's body was not simply burnt. Oh, that one I heard. Burned in the incinerator with a weapon, resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. The old sorcerer's wish vanished before it could be granted. He always knew that this was one possible result of his risky gamble. Well, sure he's fine. It was just like Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, and the thing that had been stabbed into Kanon-kun's chest. I forgot that was his name. Well, you know, yelp. One of those demon ice picks was stuck into his forehead.
指に
The head's ring is not on his finger.
ありません。
昨夜の
So
手
the
紙
letter
の通り
last
とい
night
うこ
was
と
telling
で
the
す。
truth.
お父様。
Father would probably be horribly
さぞや
disappointed.
ご無念
No,
でし
he
ょう。
chucked it. He gave it up willingly. Natsui-san let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. I can only imagine the migraine she's got now. But this one might be a bit more justified. This room had also become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. It was decided that we would leave grandfather's corpse here and lock the room, sealing it. It isn't clear when grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator. Since according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong, the body must have started burning a long time ago. so that stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing up the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done, Grandfather had been brought out, killed, and burned, even though he had started out locked away in the closed room created by his auto lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji-san, the boiler room is usually locked. The possibility that someone outside of our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high. And there was also a good chance that this person was walking around with something like a master key. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked. Despite that, the culprit was able to strut around the mansion freely. Does this crime confirm that a 19th person exists? Hello, not tubular bells. There's still that contradiction, since they're trying to tout their existence without ever showing themselves once. Along with Kirie-san's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, the very fact that this crime makes it perfectly obvious that a 19th person exists means that the existence of the 19th person is even less plausible. What? Huh, because it seems like there's a 19th person. There can't be? I get the concept. If what they're trying for you to see and believe is for a reason, then there can't be, like, then it's the opposite, but still. As long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us. If the culprit could get Grandfather out through the door sealed by the receipt, if they could kill Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of a door sealed by a chain, then could they possibly go so far as to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices? Yeah, no, that I get. If we still want to believe that the culprit is among the 18, then the list of suspects has grown very short. The four of us kids, Aunt Natsuhi, Genji-san, Kumasawa Ba-chan, and Dr. Nanjo. One of these people has to be the culprit. Wait, we can't be sure of that. Just a second ago we started doubting whether the corpse here was actually Grandfather's, right? Maybe we can think of the other bodies in the same way. For example, the first 6 all had their faces horribly smashed. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were, but that old bastard, for example, had lost his entire face as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off. We only figured out which body was which by the clothes and surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died, even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? It may sound ridiculous, but it wouldn't be an impossible trick to pull off. It's too early to give in to this 19th person. No, this witch. See, it started all tubular bells, and then it went all Ace Attorney. Maria-chan, you mustn't stare so fixedly at me. Come on, Battler-kun too. I'm worried about Cannon's condition, and we mustn't remain in a place like this any longer than necessary. Let us return. Ooh. Maria didn't go out with everyone else, but remained in the boiler room. The thing she was staring so fixedly at probably wasn't Grandfather's body, but the demon's ice pick sticking out of his forehead. It was probably the sort of item that an enthusiast couldn't bear to ignore. They tapped her on the head. Hey, Maria. What's Beatrice after? Is it all of our lives? Thanks. Beatrice will revive very soon. At that time, none shall be left alive. How can you laugh at something like that? Do you think you're the only one who's safe? Why don't you feel like you're in danger? Why aren't you scared? Beatrice made a promise. She said she's going to take me to the Golden Land. It's a wonderful place where you have no obligations. Everyone's always together and everyone is always nice to everyone else. Sure. And the way to get there is to let Beatrice murder everyone. I'm looking forward to it. That time will come very soon now. Just what kind of person is Maria? I only know what Maria was like 6 years ago when she was 3. She was once pure and obedient, a good kid. This new Maria is 6 years later, and the Maria I knew didn't seem to fit together. Just who is she, this witch who calls herself Maria? To Maria, who ostensibly believes in the witch, unsolvable crimes is proof that the witch actually exists. Every time something occurs that would be difficult for a human, it becomes a little harder for the rest of us to not believe in Beatrice. Every direction I put in that laugh? Yes, absolutely did. It must be an intense pleasure for Maria to see her relatives, who once firmly denied the witch's existence, start acknowledging that witch's existence one by one. Is that why she's in high spirits? Maria, let me ask this one more time. You'll probably answer the same anyway, but I'll ask just once more. Ooh. Yesterday you were given a letter in the rose garden. Who gave it to you? Ooh. Like I said, Beatrice. Battler still doesn't believe. Ooh. Maria only repeated what she had already said. Maria met with the 19th person, the witch. Was that really a 19th person, or did one of the 18 just get her to say that? All that's certain is that Maria has been with the rest of us consistently, and always had an alibi, and hasn't done anything suspicious. She's simply overjoyed at being made Beatrice's messenger. It certainly isn't the 19th person. Yeah, I guess she's always been with someone outside of when she got that initial letter that we're aware of. But also, I kind of get the feeling that, like, when people run off to go find dead bodies, they kind of just leave her alone. But I guess the body's already dead at that point. I don't know. Supposedly. That's right. I wonder what's written on the letter we picked up at Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Yeah, some stuff's happened and we haven't gotten a chance to read it. Aunt Natsui should still have it with her. I'm sure it's unimportant. Glass-shatteringly unimportant. It's watching Power Rangers, man. Yeah, I know, It's a much bigger clock than normal. Okay. In the end, Kanon-kun did not regain consciousness. Oh, well. Well. Found in the boiler room with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his chest. How presumptuous of lowly furniture like that. Damn. While we're here, we should save. Even though Dr. Nanjo and the rest did all they could to heal him. Clock getting closer. Clearly. Of course, there was very little that could be done on an island like this without medicine or proper facilities. However, Kanon was the only human ever to confront the culprit. If only he could give us some kind of clue. However, at that time, they carried Kanon away. It was already too late. My sincere apologies. Without proper facilities, there was nothing I could do about such a serious wound. All the way through like chapter 5. Wait, is that clock moving, getting really big? Off bulk or on purpose? I feel like it's probably on purpose, but I'm not sure. So, okay, I had to think about it. Yeah, no, fair. No, it's perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for giving it your very best. Dr. Nanjo's shirt had been sprayed with a violent spurt of blood, so it's easy to imagine the devotion with which he had tried to save Kanon's life, up until the last second. Jessica was crouched in the corridor, crying softly. She had probably been taking care of Kanon-kun until the moment of his death. Yorojanoki tried to approach her with words of comfort, but when Jessica pushed him away, he stopped trying to force her to talk and left her alone. If only I hadn't let Kanon-san go outside. Do not let that bother you. If you had been with him, you would have probably been attacked as well. He foolishly rushed on ahead and paid for his mistake. How can you say it like that?
カノン君は
Canon
犯
Kun
人の
spotted
姿
the
を見つ
culprit
けて
and bravely stood
誘
up
拐
to
にいた
them.
熊沢さんも
If
一緒
only
だったら
Kumasawa-san had gone with him, the culprit might have hesitated and chosen to run away. Emotion-filled words that I never thought I'd hear coming from Jessica's mouth tumbled out. Kumasawa, looking truly sorry, could do nothing but hang her head.
ジェシカ、
今は言葉をかけ
You
るべき
shouldn't
じゃない
talk to her now.
僕だって
It's the same for me, and probably you as well, right,
バトラ
Battler?
君もだろう。もう何
We
が
don't know
何
what's
だか
going
分から
on,
な
and it
くて
feels like our hearts are going to split open. There were
心が
tears in
張り
George
裂けそう
Anaki's eyes again. Seeing Jessica break down crying probably brought back the pain of losing his parents. I'd done my crying all at once. No, you said that, but then you started crying again. And you swore the first time that you were done crying, until you weren't. I'm not saying the tears were unreasonable, but I'm saying you lied. So I didn't feel like crying anymore. However, I understood how great the pain in their hearts was. It's okay, Jessica. You'll be able to meet Canon again soon.
よしてくれよ
Stop it.
そういう慰めはいらねえぜ
I don't need you trying to console me like that.
ありありありありあり死者も失った愛する
Beatrice will resurrect the dead and even love that has been lost. So you'll definitely be able to meet him soon.
そしてきっと
Then everyone will be able to live in
みん
peace.
なで穏やかに過ごせるからカノン君を
So
殺
the
し
one
た
who
な
killed
ら
Canon-kun is this
マリアに昨日
Beatrice who
手紙を渡したって
supposedly
いう
gave you that
ベアトリー
letter
チェなんだ
yesterday?
そいつはどこに
Where
いるん
is
だよ
she?
どこに隠
Where
れ
is
て
she
んだよ
hiding?
私が見つけて
I'll
引き裂
find
いて
her
や
and
る
tear her apart. Tell me, you know who the culprit really is,
犯
don't
人
you?
の正体をお前は何を
What
して
do you
いた
know and what are you hiding?
話しやがれ
Tell me, damn it.
お嬢様、おやめください。
Yeah, no. She wouldn't even try. Lady, please stop. Ooh. Ooh. Beatrice exists. Exists. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Damn it, let go of me, Genshi-san.
マリアが犯
Maria
人を
knows
し
who
て
the culprit
し
is.
かもそいつ
And
は
she's hiding their
知ってて隠して
identity
るんだ
even though she knows.
そして俺たちの内情を伝えて殺しの手
She
引きをしてるに違い
is,
ないんだぜ
She must be telling them what we're doing, guiding them as they kill us.
ジェシカ
Jessica, be
静かに
silent.
しなさい
Jessica grabbed at Maria. Genji tried to stop her, but Jessica could not be calmed. The next thing I heard was the sound of Aunt Natsui slapping Jessica's face. After that, only Jessica's sorrowful sobbing voice resounded through the hall.
マリアちゃん
Maria-chan,
僕は
I know there's no way you're the
君が断
culprit.
じて君は
You've
い
been
つも
with
僕
us
た
since
ち
the
と
beginning.
一緒にいた
There's
し
no time for you to
犯
communicate
人
with
だ
any
と通じ
culprit.
ている時間はだから
So, I want you to tell me something.
君に昨日
This Beatrice who
手
handed
紙
you
を
the
渡
letter
したベ
yesterday.
アトリーチェと
Who
は
was she?
誰なんだ
Although
い
those words seemed kind, they clearly showed that George still had some remaining doubts about Maria. He didn't actually grab at her. However, he felt exactly the same way Jessica did.
兄貴、
Hanaki?
同じことは
I
俺
already
も
asked
さ
her
っ
the
き聞い
same
た
thing a
ぜ
second ago.
返事は同じさ
Her answer was the same as before.
マリアちゃんの口から聞きたい
I want to hear it from Maria's mouth.
ベアトリーチェと
Who
は
is Beatrice?
誰なんだい
言ってもどうせ信じない
Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me anyway.
それはどう
What
い
do
う
you
意
mean
味だ
by
い
that?
ひょっとして
Could it be the culprit
僕ら
someone
の
we
よ
know
く知る
well?
君は何かの
And you're
事情か
keeping
らそれを
silent
かば
because
うた
you're
めに
covering
黙
for
ってい
them
る
for
とい
some
うのかい
reason?
君は
Who
あ
gave
の
you
手
that
紙を
letter?
誰にもらったんだい
ベアトリ
I
ーチェ
got
に
it
もら
from
ったんだ
Beatrice.
何度だって
I'll say it no matter how many times you ask.
手紙はベ
I
アトリ
got
ー
the
チェに
letter
もら
from
った
Beatrice.
ジョージお兄ちゃんがベアトリーチェを信じないのは
Giorgio
殴れる
Nechan,
相手
do
じゃ
you
ないか
refuse to
ら
believe in Beatrice because she's not an opponent you can hit?
ジョージお兄ちゃん
You
は
want to turn your
やる
feelings
せ
of
ない気持
helplessness
ちを
into
暴
violence
力に
and beat
変え
someone
て
up.
だから殴れる相手が人間じゃな
So
き
you
ゃ
won't be
収ま
satisfied
りが
unless
つ
your
かない
opponent is a human you can hit.
だからそんなジョージお兄ちゃんには真実を話しても受け
So
入れられな
even
い
if I tell you the truth, you won't accept it.
だから言っ
So
て
it's
も
pointless for
無
me to tell you.
駄信じ
You
ない
won't believe.
でもマリアは
But
何
I'll
度
keep
も
on
言う
saying
よ
it.
真実だ
Because
から
it's
言う
true.
ベアトリーチェは
Beatrice
ね
exists.
黄金鏡の扉はもうすぐ開かれるよ
The door to the Golden Land will soon be opened.
マリアはそこに行くのベアトリーチェが約束し
Beatrice
てくれたの
promised. I'm sure.
その世界ではママも
She
優しく
seems
て
to have had a
パ
long
パも一緒で
conversation with
優しい
Beatrice
の。
with somebody who just handed over a letter. Yeah, I'm sure if we just check the chat log, it would show up there. In that world, Mama is nice, Papa is with us, and is also nice.
マリアは早くそこへ行きた
I
い
want to
の。
go there right away.
みんなはベアトリーチェのことを恐れ
Everyone's
て
afraid of Beatrice.
そしてそれは無
That's
理も
only
ないことだけど、なら安
So
心して。
calm yourselves.
ベアトリーチェは言って
Beatrice said
た
so
よ
herself.
台風が去るまでに
By the time the
全てを
typhoon is
終わらせ
passed,
る
I'll
から
have ended everything, she said. Well, yeah, she ended more than half, so. End is also nice, yeah. Ouch. I do appreciate that Battler has started, you know,
上手
punching
な
her
マリ
for
アも嫌い
this.
じゃねえが
Not like
とりあえずはそのくらい
crazy
にしと
hard,
け
but enough. Maria, I don't mind you being talkative, but let's leave it at that for now.
魔女はいるいる言
I'll
ってたお
bet
前
this
に
is
と
all
って
pretty a pretty happy situation for you, since you're always going on about how witches exist, but keep that to yourself for now.
他人にまで押し付けるんじゃね
Don't try
え
to force that on other people.
おー
Ooh. I know I've been creeped out by this girl for a while now.
前から気持ち悪いやおかしい
There
ぜ
really is something wrong with her.
どっかおかしいぜバトラは思わ
You
ねえ
think
の
so
かよ
too, Battler? Genji-san?
熊沢さんは
Kumasawa-san?
母さんはどう
What
だ
about you, Mom?
マリアは犯人の
Maria
正体を
knows
知
who
っ
the
てて
culprit is, and she's hiding it.
確かに直接手を下してる
Okay,
わけじゃ
maybe
な
she
いかも
hasn't
しれ
done
ない
anything directly,
でも間違い
but
な
she's
く
definitely
犯人の
working
一
with the
味だ
criminal.
そうさ
That's right, she's a
スパイだ
spy.
私たちと
We
一
can't
緒
let
に
her stay with
なん
us
かいさせら
any
れない
longer.
ぜ
マリアちゃん、
Maria-chan,
不謹慎な
you must
話を
realize there are
慎む
times
べ
when
き時もある
indiscreet
ことを知
discussion
りな
is
さい。
best avoided.
これ以上、
If you
混
keep
乱
adding
に
oil
油
to
を
the
注
fire,
ぐよう
even
な真
I
似
will
はす
get
ぎれば。
very angry. Aunt Natsui glared at Maria with frightening eyes and a gun. I guess she doesn't have her gun with her right now, or maybe she's just got it lowered. Maria was used to Aunt Rosa's loud style of scolding, but she apparently hadn't built up resistance to Aunt Natsui's quiet sort of scolding. She shrugged and kept her mouth shut. Hammer space, yeah, of course. A desolate feeling filled the room. It felt as though things would just get more complicated if anyone spoke. How many people have already died? 6 people in Dad's group. After that, both Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi, Kanon-kun, grandfather. There were a whole 18 people on this island, supposedly, and 10 of those people have been killed. That's more than half of us. And right now, there's absolutely no proof that the remaining 8 people will be safe.
とにかく、
At any rate,
今は
this is
仲
no
違い
time
を
to
している
quarrel.
時ではあります。犯人が神出鬼
Now
没
that
に
we are
屋敷内
certain
を
the
出入
culprit
りし
can
ている
enter
こ
and
と
leave
が
the
間違
mansion
い
at
なく
will
な
and
っている。
strike out of nowhere,
私たちは
we
明日まで
must give our
身を
undivided
守ること
attention
だけ
to
に専
surviving
念しな
until
くてはなり
tomorrow.
ません。
夏日おばさんに
I
極
agree
めて
strongly
同
with
感だ
Aunt
ぜ
Natsui. We can figure out who the
犯
culprit
人
is
探
at
し
our
は今夜
leisure
ゆっくり
tonight.
今はどこ
For
で
now,
籠
though,
城す
we're
るかを考
better
え
off
た方
finding
が
a
いい
place to barricade ourselves in. As I said this, I pointed out the clocks to everyone. It's already 8 o'clock at night. We had been receiving shocks over and over since early morning, and our bodies and minds were both completely tired out. There's still a long, long time until tomorrow. We needed to find some place to barricade ourselves in so we could rest our bodies and get even the smallest amount of relief.
私も同感ですが、
I agree.
私も含め、
Everyone is already pushing
も
their
うみんな
mental and physical
体も
limits,
心
myself
も
included.
今からそれを考えた方
I believe it
が
would be
賢明
wise to
で
take
し
that
ょう
into account as we move forward.
そういうこった
That's right.
敵は
There's
マ
a
スタ
high
ーキーに準ずる
probability
ものを
that
持
the
っている
enemy's
口
got
座
the
が高い
equivalent of a master key.
シャノンやカノン君、
Were Shannon and
ゴーダさん
Kanon-kun
は
and
マスタ
Goda-san
ーキ
holding
ー
a
を持って
master
ましたか
keys?
はい、
Yes.
勤務時間中だった
They
ら
were supposed to have them on their
身につけて
person
いた
during
はず
work.
です。
現場をいじらない方がいいってんで
We didn't
そこ
want to
までは
disturb the
調べなか
scene,
った
so
の
we
が
didn't investigate that closely.
誰かの
We
鍵が
can't
奪われ
eliminate
て
the
いる可能性
possibility
は
that
否定
someone
で
stole
き
the
ない
key from them.
そもそも犯人はバラ庭園倉
In
庫
the
の
first
シャッ
place,
ター
we
を
know
開
the
けるため
culprit
に
may have visited the
一度
servant
使用
room
人
at
室を
some
訪れ
point
て
to
いる
unlock
可
the
能性
garden
がある。
shed's
そこで
shutter.
マスターキーをすでに入手していると考えて
It's
違いないでしょう。
conceivable that they obtained a master key from there earlier on. There were many servants serving the Ushiromiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed between servants. And we had to acknowledge that this had probably gone a bit sloppy at times in the past.
仮に殺された使用人の誰かのポケットから
Even if they borrowed a bundle of keys from the pockets of one of the murdered servants,
その鍵でも開け
is
ら
there
れな
any
い
safe place
安全
that
な場所
even
はあ
these
るのか
keys couldn't open?
私たちはお仕
This is
事
the
の
nature of our
仕事
job. We have been entrusted
全
with
てのお
keys
部
to
屋
all
の
of the
鍵を
rooms.
預かっております。お屋敷も
All
ゲ
of
ス
them
ト
in the
ハウ
mansion
ス
and
も
in the
全
guest
てで
house.
す。
つまり私たちは
So in other words, no matter where we hold off and lock ourselves in, it'd just be
意味
pointless.
がない。
What about the grandfather's room? I mean, they do have a key for it, but I wonder if the master key works for it, if it needs the specific key. Rereads it different? Oh, I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff that's noticeable on a reread that wouldn't be for me. Fine, who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it.
返り討ちにしてやるぜ。
I'll beat you at your own game.
敵は正面から来
The
ない
enemy won't approach us from the front.
最初の6人は
I
と
don't
も
know
か
about the
く
first 6, but if we look at what happened to my parents and Kanon-kun, stabbed in the front,
そして
and even
おじい様
grandfather,
の
the
霊を見
enemy
る
has
限
only
り
gone after isolated
敵
people.
は
Yeah.
孤立した人間だけを狙ってる。一部屋に固まっている
They
僕た
don't
ちの
have the
ところ
power
へ
to assault all
堂
of
々
us
と乗り込ん
openly
で
in
こ
a
られる
secure
ほどの
room.
力はないんだよ。
そうだな
That's right.
兄貴の言う通り
It's
だ
just like Aniki says.
ひょっとする
And
と
maybe Aunt Natsui's rifle can serve as a deterrent to stop them from
抑
attacking.
止効果として成立してるのかもしれないぜ。
なら良いのですが。
I hope that is so, but
マリア
Maria, I know you want to say something, but keep it to yourself and stay quiet for a
そい
while.
つは飲み込んで
Ooh. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches weren't afraid of things like guns, but if she were to say it out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it.
よろしいで
If
しょ
I
う。
may,
一箇所だ
I
け
do know of just one place that cannot be
使用
entered
人の
even with the
鍵
servant
束でも入
key
れない場
rings.
所
それはどこで
Where
す？
is that?
が。はい。
That would be...
親方様
The
の
master's
書
study.
斎です。
I'm against
私は
this.
じい様の
I
気
don't
持ち
even want
悪
to
い部
think
屋に
about going in grandfather's creepy room.
あの部屋に
How
入れ
many
る鍵
keys can gain
は
access to
何
that
本ある
room?
んですか？
2本です。
There are two.
1本は
I always have one on my
私
person.
もう1本
The
は
other
親
was
方
held by
様
the
がお持
master
ちです。
himself, but just now I found this on the corpse in the
ボイラ
boiler
ー室
room.
の遺体からこれを。
Genji-san took a handkerchief out of his pocket and opened it, showing us the burnt and filthy study key. Then he showed it alongside his own key, which he had once lent to
本
Natsui.
来なら
Normally, it would have been proper to leave the master's key for the police, but because of the master's orders to
書
protect
斎の
the
留守
safety
は
of the
必ず
study,
守るよ
I
うに
borrowed it for the
仰
time
せ
being.
つけられておりましたんでね。なるほど。
I see.
ということは
Which means that Kinzo-san's study is the only place where we can be safe.
安全地帯。
そういうことになり
Appear
ます。
that way.
あの怪し
I
げ
don't
な
even
匂い
want
の
to think
部屋
about being shut up in that
一晩
strange
立て
room
こ
all
も
night,
あの部屋が
but it
一番
appears
安
we must
全である
acknowledge
こ
that
とを
his room is safer
今は
than
認
anywhere
めな
else
けれ
right
ば
now.
ならないようです。
Even though grandfather locked himself up in that safe room, the culprit brought him out and killed him.
絶対安全
We
とは
can't
言
be
い切れ
certain
ね
that
え
it's
けどな
truly safe.
バトラ君の
According to
説
your
は
theory, grandfather
おじい様が
cleverly
うまく
found a
レ
way
シートをや
around
り
that
過ごして
receipt
自分の
trick
意思で部
and
屋を
left
出
the
た
room of his own free will. Yes, because he knew about the receipt and wanted to leave the room. Those are definitely two things that seem overwhelmingly likely.
と考えるなら
If so, the room might be a good place to barricade ourselves in after all. You're too optimistic,
楽観
Aniki.
的すぎだぜ兄貴
However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gives us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, about how the sealed door had been opened. If we assume the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study, they'd have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that'd give us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it right before our eyes. If she's really a witch, we'll be forcing her to use her little magic tricks to open the door right in front of us. But that's probably impossible. If you spin the chessboard around, it's obvious the culprit is acting in a way that'll make us think they're a witch. If she really is a witch, all she's got to do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. Since she's avoided doing that, everything must be the work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before our eyes.
じいさんの部屋ってのは
Is grandfather's room big
8
enough to
人で押
stuff
しか
8
けても
people in?
大丈夫なくらいの広
はい。
Yes.
ベッドにソ
There's
フ
a
ァ
bed, a sofa, and blankets, so while it's not luxurious, it will be more than suitable for spending the night.
流しに5
There is
分
also a sink, a bathroom, a
冷蔵庫
refrigerator, and a liquor
酒棚
cabinet.
もあります。
ヒュー
Whoa.
そいつはすげ
That's
えぜ
incredible. Yeah, Battler, I don't think we need to see what you're like on Absinthe.
Shikashi.
That's okay.
おかしなもんだ
Isn't
な
that
自
weird?
分の家の
You're
中
saying
に
he built
さ
another
らに自
house
分の
inside
家
of
を
his house.
島を丸ごと
It's
買っ
pretty
て
cramped.
自
The
分の夢を
last
全て
house
実
of
現しき
someone
った
like
じ
our
いさまの
grandfather
最
who
後
bought
の
a
家に
whole
しち
island
ゃ
and realized all of his
随分
dreams.
手狭なんだ
So what
な
you're saying is it was his house in the middle of his house.
そうです。
That's right.
いつの頃
At some point in time, Father probably couldn't feel at peace in any other place, even inside the mansion.
心を許せる場所で
そこに引きこも
We
ってい
always
たの
sneered
を
about how he
私たち
shut
が
himself
嘲
up in
笑い
there. And this time, we're the
そし
ones
て
who are going to
今
shut
度は
ourselves up.
私たちが
Jessica spat the words out.
ジェシカちゃんは
Jessica-chan, it sounds like you'd rather go search for the
犯
culprit
人
than
を
stay
探
shut
し
up
に行きた
somewhere.
いという感じ。
もちろん
Of course, I don't think
こ
we'll
っ
be
ち
able
から
to
探
find
し
them
に
if
行っ
we
て
just
見つ
start
けられる
searching
ん
on
だ
our
ろう
own.
結局は待つしかない
In the end, we can't do anything
な
but
らどこで待ったって同じだろ逃げも隠れもし
then
ない
it doesn't matter whether we wait, does it?
客までテレビでも見な
I'm
が
not
ら
gonna run
の
away
ん
or
びり
hide.
現れるのを
Why
待
don't
と
we
うじゃ
just
ねえ
take
か
it
よ
easy in the parlor,
Beatrice
watching TV or something,
様よ。
while we wait for this Beatrice sama to appear?
現れなければ
It's
現れ
perfectly
ない
fine
で
if she
十分で
doesn't
す
appear. There's no need for us to be the ones who expose the culprit.
正論で
Well
す
said.
が、警察が来るまで
We shouldn't take
危
needless
険を
risk
冒す
before
べ
the
きで
police
はあり
arrive.
ません。
ありがとう南條
Thank
先
you,
生
Dr. Nancho.
私は
I think we should
お
move to
父様の
Father's
出
study.
産確かに
True, we have no
お父様が
proof that
連れ
it's
出され
safe
た可能
since
性が
Father was taken out of there.
絶対の安全がしかし
However,
バ
I
トラ
can't
君の
deny the
推理の
possibility
お
that,
父様が何
as
らかの
Battler
方
Kun
法で
reasoned,
自
grandfather
ら
left
書
the study
斎
of
を
his
出
own
て
accord and was
外
attacked
で襲われ
outside.
た可能性も否定できません
A while back, I proposed that strange theory as a stopgap measure. Just as Aunt Ava said, even though the trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made grandfather sneak out in his own study. Okay, in such a troublesome way. He was just using it to stop the fighting, but even he's like, why would he do this? He could. Plus, grandfather couldn't even have used that trick unless he knew that the receipt was... Okay, look, I'm glad that they're addressing the exact things I said like an hour and a half ago. Aunt Ava hadn't pointed out that last part, but it's clear how absurd the theory was. So, does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room? Or, just as Aunt Ava claimed, is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsui was the culprit? If Aunt Ava were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. Yeah, you know, only took an hour, yeah, as opposed to usually the next sentence, like normal. But anyway, I had to admit that a room with both a bed and a toilet that all 8 people could be shut up in, and with only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. Leave it to go join Street Fighter. Yeah, But wait, have we been safe only because we've been shut up in a parlor? Oh, Potts, you might know. So, Ramen was saying that in the fan patch for the Umineko game, Battler has a Phoenix Wright outfit because he does the objection point. Does Phoenix in UMVC 3 have a Battler color palette? We didn't know, and you might. What if leaving that room and moving in an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? Ah, it's useless. It's useless. It's all useless. My flimsy head is about to break out in a fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard around, right and wrong will keep switching places over and over, and I won't be able to believe anything. It seems like the culprit is one of the 18. I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I start wanting to find the culprit amid the 18. It's a Godot, Miles, Cecile from Ghost Trick, and Gumshoe. All good options, damn. Yeah. If that keeps spinning around forever in the end, my thoughts won't have taken one step from where they started. Excuse me. Hey, you know, if you keep spinning this chessboard, you're just spinning in place. You're not doing anything. Leave us with Battler's dumbass. Oof. How far back in the past was it that Kiryu-san taught me about chessboard thinking? That concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy side. I seem to remember being so interested by it back then. I used it to guide all my thinking. By the way, Kiryu-san was Dad's co-worker back then. I never dreamt that she'd someday be added to our family. And Larry Bots. Okay, another good one. No battler. Okay, cool. Thanks for checking. Didn't Kirie-san tell me something once? I get the feeling she once said that while this chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all powerful, and it wouldn't be good to rely on it too much. The feeny outfit, though, also good, yes. Chessboard thinking is my own interpretation of something called game theory. Of all the phrases to be hit with tonight, I don't know if I expected game theory at all. Which I read about in a book long ago. It's a very interesting subject, so you should tackle it yourself when you get into college, Battle Raccoon. I really want to try it. If I could study and perfect my chessboard thinking, it'd be fun to be able to read into my opponent's moves, wouldn't it? You know, that's about the same as if Maria hit us with a 6-7. It's about as expected. No, see, the thing is, nothing from the past can do the 6-7, because that would mean that 6-7 had a origin point that wasn't just, this will confuse people. So it can't. Otherwise, 6-7 would just be a reference to Umineko, as opposed to just, this will confuse people. Game theory is just a branch of math. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense in context. But, you know, there's been a very popular YouTube channel since then that has taken the term and applied it to different things. But you can't believe in it blindly. Game theory, yeah, you can't just blindly believe in game theory. Sometimes they get parts of the game theory wrong. It happens. It's okay. Oh, I don't know who beat Kefka, but yeah, Kefka was beaten today, Potts, in 14. Kefka the Clown was defeated on 6-7. And there's no way he'd rather have that be. Yep. Game theory is a very deep and complicated subject. Chessboard thinking is just my interpretation that skims the surface of game theory. In order to thoroughly read your opponent's moves like you're imagining, you need to study your opponent. Additionally, while chessboard theory is convenient and practical, it isn't perfect. It has many weak points, despite its convenience. Weak points? Yes. Chessboard thinking is founded upon game theory. When you thoroughly investigate game theory, it boils down to math. Do you know what the weak point of math is? It's noise. Yeah, when I'm trying to do difficult math and there's somebody talking over here, I just can't get it. I can't get it done. In math, when you write 1 + 1 = 2, that process will always result in 1 + 1 = 2, no matter how many billions of years pass, nothing more, nothing less. That's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. Yeah, of course, see? But for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. Kanji are a good example. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Isn't history the same? There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed, when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusion whether they're from 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if the rules of chess had gone through massive changes over time... I think we're having this game. Just got back from that. Yeah, no, look, Potts, the secret of this game is learning how to play Baccarat. However, yeah, it's possible that a discussion about the same layout would have changed as well. That's right. Events in the world of humans are normally full of noise. Aren't human emotions that way? Even if the exact same thing occurs more than once, there's no guarantee that humans will always act in a predictable fashion. The moment we try to use a math-based theory to predict someone's actions, we must be aware that our theory has built-in weaknesses and limits. Simply put, chessboard thinking is extremely weak against noise and fickleness, as well as mistakes or incorrect knowledge. That's right. Kirie-san definitely said that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play by the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. Unless you're playing against Dog, in which case, good luck, fucker. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves they can find. Spin the baccarat table around. What if your opponent is fickle or a bit tired and makes a move that can hardly be called the best? Or what if this game actually has a special rule? Some unknown thing that only the enemy knows about and can use. In fact, what if the opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking. Which means if you misread your enemy, the answer you draw from this process will be completely rubbish, useless. So far, I've used chessboard theory to get several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case, or so I thought. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? No, that's a Raincoat, a totally different game. If Kiryu-san were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much, much sharper thinking ability. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into Grandfather's study. But in the end, Aunt Natsui persisted and we decided to move there. Shinigami's here, Paddler. Yeah, everyone who was completely wrapped in paranoia by now. Sawa-san had prepared dinner at one point, but during the time we were discussing the deaths of George Anaki's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested that the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasawa-san had taken the trouble to make for us. Yeah, that's a safe bet, though. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown, but it certainly could have been poison. Certainly, that would allow even a single person to carry out the murder of 6 large adults. Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there being only a single culprit, one who'd been afraid of Aunt Natsui's rifle. This was very good for our emotional stability. But the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we imagined. Then Kumasawa-san made a proposal, and we all went together to the kitchen. There we gathered some canned food and other things that would be hard to poison to take in with us. All of Kumasawa-san's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner in this savage day regrettably came to nothing. See, if you really wanted to take them out, at this rate you'd poison the utensils. Because, like, they're smart to be wary of the food. They gotta eat that canned food with something. Gun, yes, correct. Gun and numbers, and that the hope of numbers mattering. Yep. The food piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. We all started climbing the stairs. Aunt Natsui, who was in the lead, warily stared into the darkness with both eyes and the barrel of a gun. Once we dragged ourselves up to the 3rd floor, just as Aunt Natsui had warned us of beforehand, there was a mixture of a chemical smell and a sickly sweet aroma, a stench hanging in the air that felt like it was eating into our heads. See, this kind of stench probably would give you a headache if you were shut in with it for a whole night. I know it's a little late, but I'm with Jessica. I vote against going into Grandfather's study. Felt like the stench was floating out from this magnificent door. It was the door to the forbidden study which should defend against any who would enter. While Genji-san unlocked the door, Maria stood at the door and the doorknob with great interest. Ooh. Incredible door. Looks old and strict, like it'd stop any jokes cold. A perfect door for Grandfather's study. The power to ward off spiritual menaces is strong here. Beatrice probably couldn't open this door. Oh? What does that mean? Maria pointed at the doorknob. A scorpion crest. No, a design like a magic circle arranged around a scorpion was inscribed there. That design, that's right. Isn't it just like those keychain charms Maria gave Jessica and me yesterday? The 5th magic circle of Mars is a strong ward against magic. Additionally, this magic circle was very diligently constructed and is full of power. Such a magic circle can be quite troublesome to beings of magic like Beatrice. Isn't that comforting? Are you saying we can escape even Beatrice's clutches in this room? I love the concept of him locking himself into this room, yelling and screaming and pining over Beatrice, while he also carved a thing into the doorknob that's like, you can't, no. Like... yeah, that's just... You know, maybe he was crazy enough to hide under the bed. Maybe. Like, yeah. Are you saying we can escape even Beatrice's clutches in this room?
うちの魔女様は実に
Our little
頼も
witch
し
here
い
sure
ぜ
is reliable.
なら
Then how did Beatrice get grandfather out?
どうやってな
バトラが
Just as
推理した
Battler
通り
reasoned,
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice
は
can't
中
go
に入
inside.
る。でも彼女
However,
に
she
は
has
魔
both
法がある
magic
し
and familiars.
それらを
Using
使
them,
って
she might have been
お
able
じ
to
い
get
様が
grandfather
自
to
分から
leave
書
the
斎
study
を
of
出
his
て
own
くるよう
accord.
に仕向けることはできるかも。
ああ
Ah, I've read about that in manga.
吸血鬼は
I've seen a bunch of
十字架が
scenes where
怖くて近
vampires
づけ
were
ねえけど
frightened of crosses, so they couldn't get close.
使い魔たちはへ
But
っ
their
ちゃらなので
familiars were just fine,
使い
so
魔
they
に
made their
襲わせる
familiars
みたいな
attack.
シーンをよ
バトラたちに
Those
昨日あ
scorpion
げた
keychain charms
サソ
I
リの
gave
キ
you
ーホル
yesterday
ダーの
also
よう
had the
なお
fifth
守
magic
り
circle of
も
Mars
こ
on
の
them.
込められてい
The
る
power
力
dwelling
は
within
微々
them
た
is
るもの
weak,
だ
but
け
they
ど
should be enough to
この
protect you
島
until we
を出
leave
る
the
までの
island.
間をなくしちゃったそうだけ
Although
ど
it
ね。
sounds like you've lost yours, right?
サソリのキーホル
Scorpion
ダー
keychain
のお守り
charms. Yeah, the charm I gave you yesterday was something I got from Maria. I heard it would repel magic if you put it on your doorknob, and at the time I thought maybe it'd be better if you had it.
そうでした
Is
か
that so?
ジェシカにして
I
は
thought it was
変
an
わった
odd
も
thing
のを
for you
持
to
っ
be
ている
carrying
と
around.
思っていました
夏日おばさん
Not
のあれ
Natsui
よ
put that
ドアノブ
on
の
her doorknob?
ええ
Yes.
夕べそう
Last night, after hearing about it from
寝る
Jessica,
前
I hung it from the
に扉
doorknob
の
on
内
the
側の
inside
ド
of
ア
my
ノブに
room.
かけました
なら
Then Aunt Natsui,
夏
you're
日
really
おばさん
fortunate.
そうだったなら
If you did
ゆう
that,
べ
Beatrice probably
ベアト
couldn't
リ
even
ー
lay
チェ
a
は
finger
夏
on
日
you
おばさん
yesterday.
に指一本触れられなくベアトリー
I
チェ
think
は
Beatrice
さぞ
must have
や
been
悔し
really
がったと思う
annoyed.
よ。
Beatrice, annoyed, couldn't lay one finger. Natsui thought back to that eerie scribble she'd seen it that morning as though someone had been tearing at the outside of her door with blood-soaked hands, and gasped in surprise. Could it be that this witch who called herself Beatrice tried to enter through the door to Natsui's own room? The magic repelling charm had been hanging from the inside, so she couldn't break through the door. So she was annoyed. So she scratched at it?
よせよ
Quit it, don't talk about that. Witches don't exist. The culprit does. And they're a human just like us. If you need proof, why don't we dice her up and see if her blood's red? Damn it, damn it. How could you do that to Kanon-kun? Click. Genji unlocked the door. 8 people entered Kinzo's study. Grandfather's study. I'd heard rumors about it beforehand, so I wasn't that shocked. We had done nothing more than fortify it thoroughly with his occult hobbies. If Grandfather's hobby had been chasing after pop idols, these walls might be buried beneath idol posters. Yes, I suppose, if that was his hobby, that's a weird what-if to go to, Battler, but you're not wrong, I guess. He'd still probably be chugging absinthe, though. Even if I didn't understand it, I did realize that this room was a bundle of all of his pastimes. Even so, I couldn't help but remain dumbfounded by the smell of his creepy medicine and the sweet stench that seemed to melt my head. Yes, but Beatrice. Except he, that's not what he's done. He could have just plastered the painting all over everywhere. He could have had like 20 copies of it made, but he didn't. When the door was closed, it automatically made a clunk. I see. This is the auto lock that's activated whenever the door is closed. And there were only 2 keys that could open this door from the outside, both of which were in this room. In other words, it had become a closed room. The shutter, the receipt, the chain, and now the auto lock. This 4th door had the most magnificent lock yet, and this was doubtlessly a closed room. It was in the 80s? I believe it, yeah. Just to make absolutely sure that the room was secure, we checked all over for ways in or out. The window was tightly locked. That should have been enough, but just in case we tried knocking all over the walls. After all, we had talked about there being a hidden door in this room, but we couldn't find anything suspicious. Have any of you looked under the bed yet, just to check? Grandfather's study was very large. Even though we called it a study, it wasn't really a single room. It could be divided up into 4 basic sections: a study section, a bedroom section, a toilet bathroom section, and a section for cooking that had a sink. I see, the study really does have enough to live in. Now I see how Grandfather could live his whole life in this room without ever leaving. Yes, it's his house in the middle of his house. It seemed Grandfather wasn't in the habit of watching TV because there's no television or even a radio in this room. Can't do anything except pass the time listening to the sound of the rain until tomorrow morning. Dr. Nanjo looked closely at the chessboard that sat on the table in front of the sofa and muttered. was apparently the partially finished chess match he'd been playing with grandfather until yesterday. The black had the white pretty well cornered, and it looked like checkmate would be reached within a few moves, the last part of the endgame. Even though checkmate had almost been reached, the endgame had been rushed, and in the end was never completed. Kinzo-san, it seems we weren't able to see this match through after all. Dr. Nanjo. I was Kinzo's friend for a long time, but I never knew about more than half of them. I believe two Kinzos existed, a wise one and one trapped by some madness. So like Maria, yeah. Which one is mad and which one is wise? Up for interpretation. Never understood anything about him. Especially when it came to Beatrice-sama, it seemed like his personality changed. In the direction of Kumasawa-san's upward gaze, a portrait of Beatrice could be seen. It wasn't massive like the one hanging in the entrance hall, but small, made for this room. Grandfather probably spent every day in this room, and so much of his time talking to the witch in that portrait. Yes, I leave it up to who was Beatrice to grandfather in the first place? Right now, you couldn't just explain it away by saying it was a story made by the parents to frighten children away from wandering into the forest. While eating the canned food we brought from the kitchen, we talked together about who Beatrice was. Whether the culprit was Beatrice herself or someone pretending to be her. Whether they were a witch or a human, that was besides the point. The woman in this portrait was strongly related to the roots and the background of this case. You couldn't talk about this case without talking about her. That's right. Mom, you picked up the culprit's letter in Aunt Ava's room, right? You still haven't read the letter, yes. I still haven't opened it. Hope it's not something dreadfully important. Let's give it a try. I mean, I get that they had more pressing things. Aunt Natsui took out that western envelope. Genji-san pulled a paper knife out of a drawer in the study desk and handed it to her. While watching her open it, George Aniki grimaced slightly. After all, it was a letter left at the site where his parents had been murdered. There was a good chance its contents would say something unbearable to Aniki. Aunt Natsui also seemed to realize that, so she glanced over the contents first without reading it aloud. We were a little frightened that she might grimace after reading something shocking, but she just frowned unhappily. What does it say? There is one unpleasant sentence. They must be trying to provoke us. Natsui, after deciding that the contents could be shown to the children, set it openly on the table. Everyone stared at it at the same time. Praise my name. What the hell? That's annoying. Probably Beatrice declaring herself the victor. Damn it. I'll bet you were hoping another weird magic circle would show up. There wasn't a magic circle, but my expectations haven't been betrayed. What could it mean? I wonder if she wants to tout her own existence. That seems reasonable. With this letter, we now know that the author of last night's letter is the culprit. I think the identical envelope is more significant than what is written here. Without a doubt, this is the type of envelope and sealing wax that the master used. I don't know what's going on anymore. This is the first time I've seen anything like this since I started working for the Ishiramiya family. Going by last night's letter, Beatrice is claiming to be grandfather's oldest confidant. Grandfather often said the same thing in the past, right? I spoke to Genji-kun and Kumasawa-san, who nodded together. Guess that means you two know more about her than anyone except grandfather. Did you tell us? What's going on anymore? Do I have her? I mean, they're in a room, it's locked. Beatrice. More than half of them are dead. There is somewhere greater than 18 and less than 19 people here. And they are, I don't know if it's possible to get high off of absinthe fumes, but if it is, it's gonna happen. Is that a decent enough? I think I have a passable, you know. For a long time, I've purposely avoided this topic. But now that it has come to this, I can no longer do so. Genji, tell us everything you know. Genji-san didn't answer. Did he remain silent despite his knowledge, or did he know nothing at all? parallel universes, scuttlebugs. Yeah, you know. I thought that was a given. I didn't even mention it. Still, I had a good guess. The ghost story of the witch Beatrice had long been deified among the servants. He had probably been very close to grandfather and his occult hobbies. So there's a good chance that he'd been indoctrinated with even weirder things, and had increasingly come to defy the witch. As grandfather's most trusted servant, who had sworn loyalty to him, he might be the most influenced by the illusion of the witch that grandfather created. So there was only one reason for Genji-san to remain silent. He could speak, but it would definitely cause a backlash, so it was better if he kept his mouth shut, and it wasn't like we'd believe him anyway. Something along those lines. A short while ago, Maria had been more than willing to speak bluntly and unrestrainedly, and that had earned her a scuffle with Jessica. It was natural for Genji-san to keep his silence. I'm glad. Was she father's concubine? His concubine? That could be possible. For ordinary poor people, polygamy isn't only viewed negatively from a moral perspective. For ordinary poor people, it's also an unobtainable financial situation. But that isn't the case for the very rich. It's possible for them to have another lover in addition to their real wife. We can't deny the possibility that grandfather had another woman in his life besides grandmother. Maybe. When grandmother was alive, I hear she was pretty sure of it. She thought he was cheating on her. I always thought she meant grandfather's imaginary witch. Now this is getting really interesting. You told me, didn't you, Genji-san? You said Beatrice has been working for grandfather since before the mansion was finished. I heard that the construction of the mansion was completed in Showa 27, 1952. That'd mean this person called Beatrice was in a relationship with grandfather since at least 30 years ago. Had that concubine of 30 years ago, or maybe a relative or hidden child with that person, hold some kind of grudge and be planning revenge? I see. This is starting to sound just like your standard Western mansion mystery. It's a filthy topic, but the easiest line of reasoning to accept. What do you think, Kenji? The master surely had feelings of deep love for her. There can be no mistake that he cared for her more than his late wife. And all of his children. Who's this person called Beatrice? And what's she doing now? I have heard that she passed away before the mansion was completed. She's already dead? Yes. The master was deeply stricken by grief at her loss, and he devoted himself to the art of black magic as a means to revive her. The master loved Beatrice-sama from the bottom of his heart. It was that madness which drove him to do all that you see here. As Genji-san said this, he spread his arms as though asking us to look at this room, filled with the signs of grandfather's madness. Like that candelabra. We were at a loss for words. A chandelier. Normally, black magic seems like it'd be just be creepy, and it's really hard to imagine why someone might be so enraptured by it. Since Kinzo was just an eccentric who had restored the Ushiromiya family amidst his madness, nobody had tried to understand him. The only thing on grandfather's mind had been the loss of a beloved woman, and his inescapable sorrow. Earlier, this room had seemed creepy, but in an instant it had changed into something we could understand completely. The creepy books, the magic circles, the medicine, all of it. It all existed simply because he wanted to revive the face of a single woman who had left this world over 30 years ago. The master only told me about Beatrice-sama's story once when he was very drunk, although I have forgotten the details. It was deep, deep love, enough to make a woman like me jealous. When Kinzo-san succeeded the headship of the Ushiromiya family, his marriage to his late wife had already been decided by the few surviving family elders. So, he was forced into a marriage with some woman who would benefit the Ushiromiya family? That is correct. Kinzo-san was installed as the head who would revive the family, and had to bear the entirety of that heavy responsibility. And do not pretend to know the details of when or where Kinzo-san first met her. Guess it'd be rude to say any more than that. That was when grandfather truly fell in love for the first time. Just how deep was his affection for her? That was easy to see just by looking around us. This room was covered with piles upon piles of things having to do with black magic. And grandfather spent every day shut in here, immersed in his research and isolated from the outside world, never regretting 1 minute of it. You couldn't help but recognize the depths of grandfather's love for Beatrice. I had it all wrong, Kenshi-san. What do you mean by that? I've always thought that maybe you servants believed blindly in the witch because you were influenced by grandfather's creepy black magic hobby. That's not how it was, right? By acting as though Beatrice's soul at least had been restored and existed inside this mansion, they might have hoped to soothe grandfather's heart. With closed eyes and the expression of one remembering something from the distant past, Genji had broken his long silence. In making that confession, he probably felt like he was betraying his one and only master in the most serious way, even though that person was already dead. Beatrice has revived as a witch, and she's in the mansion even now. Genji had said it. Had believed it. Had made people believe it. And would take that with him to the grave. This might have been the last service he could offer up to his master. The legend of the witch, the mysterious tale of Rokinjima that was still whispered of amongst the servants. Its true nature was a sad lie. No, it was an act of kindness towards grandfather, who had lost the person he loved above all else. I remember denying the witch's existence in front of father on multiple occasions. Now I finally understand how much that must have wounded him. Right now I can understand it very well. If I thought I could revive Shannon using black magic, I'd immediately become the next owner of this room and start researching. Aniki. Another strand of tears dripped from George's eyes. Maybe his tears were infectious. Tears rose to Jessica's eyes too when she sniffled. Beatrice has said it. Very soon she will be able to revive people. And you'll be able to meet them, she said. Very soon the door to the Golden Land will be opened. In the promised land that glitters gold, the souls of all the dead will be resurrected, along with the love that has been lost. Then I will sleep in a world of peacefulness for all time. Did she say that? The Beatrice who gave you the letter? You don't believe, do you? If only grandfather were here. I'm sure he'd be happy. I'm sure he'd be jumping for joy now that Beatrice is about to be revived. In that case, I believe if grandfather gave up half of his life for this research, trying to resurrect the soul of the woman he loved and spending the rest of his life believing, I'll believe too. Battler? When you love a single woman for so long, the people around you catch on to it and it becomes the truth. Maybe you could say they're just being polite for the sake of your feelings, but right here, now, I'd like to call that magic. It isn't just being polite. It really is magic. She's a witch. It looks like nobody can see Beatrice after all. Some time passed. As we listened to the sound of the rain, we considered what kind of love and madness must have possessed the owner of this room as he spent half his life here. If you ask me as a woman, then while I'd like to be understanding of father's feelings of true love, it did leave mother in an awkward position. I agree. Cheating is cheating. No way to make it pretty. Yeah, that's right. Gotta feel sorry for grandmother. So, have there been any rumors about a child between Beatrice and grandfather? The keyword Beatrice has been hidden in every corner of this case. So it's natural to suspect some relative of hers. No, I have not heard of anything like that. If there was one, a memento of his most beloved person, he surely would have given them all of his affection. Since he ended up immersing himself in black magic instead, maybe we should assume that there was no such child. Come to think of it, that reminds me of a rumor I heard. You know it, right? The story about how grandfather heavily supported an orphanage called the Fukuin House? Enough of that. There's nothing more than slander which would just desecrate father. Tell us, Aunt Natsuri. I think even you'd agree that this is no time to hide things from each other. It's a worthless story. Father made massive donations to an orphanage and had the orphans employed as servants at the head family to give them some on-the-job experience. The story in question is simply some drivel spouted by fools who claim that father was using those orphans for some filthy hobby. For a while, some guys even said he was collecting human sacrifices for his black magic. And he really is doing weird experiments and ceremonies in this room all the time, so I half believed it myself. The servants who came from the Fukuin house are... There are several of them, but Shannon and Cannon were the two scheduled during the family conflict shift. To resurrect Beatrice, he brought in servants from an orphanage as human sacrifices. After all, everyone grandfather selected as a servant was young, about the same age as Shannon or Cannon. I was sure it was because grandfather had some bizarre hobby. Jessica, mind your words. When Aunt Natsui scolded her, the atmosphere instantly went sour and everyone fell quiet. However, something was tugging at the back of my mind. Sacrifices. Sacrifices. Human sacrifices brought over from an orphanage. What is it? Freaky words like sacrifices don't pop up often. And yet I've seen or heard that word recently. Some part of my memory is tugging at me. Hey, Beatrice, what do you know? I had arrived in front of the portrait of Beatrice. It wasn't as massive as the one in the entrance hall. But that portrait, which must have been drawn by some famous painter, was still just as intimidating in the smaller size. Below it, just like in the entrance hall, was the epitaph that supposedly hinted at the location of hidden gold. Ah. Sacrifices. Here. What the hell, Battler? You're creeping me out. 6. Sacrifices. Both of my eyes were as wide as plates. Everything's been predicted right there from the very beginning. Everyone crowded around, and the same expression of shock rose to all of our faces. That's right. It's right there in the epitaph. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. There's no doubt. 6 people died in the beginning. And even on the shutter where the magic circle was drawn, where the Hebrew was written, it mentioned the offerings of sacrifices. Ooh. I've been saying that from the beginning. That's right. Maria said it right at the start. Right after we found the 6 bodies. When Maria was in the parlor watching TV, she said it. Ooh. I had to ponder how to ooh in that. This has nothing to do with the location of the hidden gold. It's the instructions for a resurrection ceremony using black magic or something. After all, this epitaph requires a large number of deaths. It sure does. Even reading it through it quickly, there'd be 6 plus 2 plus 5, 13 people who must die. How many people are normally on this island? It changes depending on the shifts for the servants, but there's father, my husband, Jessica, and me, and 2 or 3 servants. Today and yesterday there were 5 of them, but there aren't normally that many. Which means that normally there wouldn't be enough sacrifices to carry out this ceremony. No, wait. There's that rumor that grandfather was collecting servants from an orphanage to be used as sacrifices in some creepy ceremony. So what does this mean? He increased the number of servants to increase the number of sacrifices and waited for the annual family conference when even more people would gather? Isn't now the only time of the year the ceremony could be held? When Jessica screamed this, Maria broke out in that creepy laugh, looking truly pleased. Haven't you ever heard of people making bets to test their fate? Yank on your sandal and saying that if it lands right side up, tomorrow will be sunny. Or saying that tomorrow will be a good day if a coin lands heads up. There are many little superstitions like that. Sometimes when your luck is down and you get bored, and you roll the dice and get 3 6s, you want to believe it's a portent of some miracle. No, it means you wasted all your 6s and that your D&D character is going to roll like crap when you run a D6 system on Wednesdays. When flipping a sandal, you have at worst a 50% chance. Even if you get it right side up, it's not worth much. But if you carelessly roll 3 dice and they all come up 6, you might think it's a small miracle. Magic works the same way. You must pray earnestly for an extremely unlikely result. And the feelings from all those stored up prayers gain magical power and become incarnate. The magic that grandfather was trying to perform was probably like that. The key randomly selected sacrifices in a lottery. So to reduce the chance that he himself was selected, he chose the day with the greatest number of people on the island to carry out the ceremony. No, that's just, you know, D&D superstition always. Ridiculous. Are you saying that this entire situation was caused by a mere ceremony for some bizarre magic? Natsu yelled. She couldn't quell the fear that a scorpion charm might be the only reason she was still safe. If I hadn't received that charm from Jessica and hung it from my doorknob, would I have been killed mixed in along with those 6? And the strangest part is, even though I hung the charm from the inside of my door, they couldn't get through that door. The culprit noticed the charm from the outside of the door and gave up trying to open it. A human couldn't have perceived that. A charm meant to stop something that was not human had done exactly that. Impossible, impossible, impossible! But Natsui-san, the epitaph certainly does continue to fit even after that. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Could this be talking about Eva-sama and Hideyoshi-sama? I mean, they didn't really... If anything, Eva was doing the tearing apart. Like... For sure, the first one has some implications. But this definitely stinks of, like... astronomy vagueness. Or astrology vagueness. You know, how your horoscope always sounds like it's really accurate to you, but it's kind of just vague. Though, like, but once you really think about it, like, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Okay, 2 more died, but those who remain didn't tear them apart. If anything, the 2 were doing the tearing. Well, not the 2, one of the 2. But, you know. Yeah. But even then, those who remain didn't tear them apart. Yes, of course. The only thing that matches is 2. They were close, they were married, yes, sure, but like, the only part of that that actually matches is the number 2. Painful as it may be, we must reach that conclusion. Must you? And after the culprit killed them, they left the words from the third twilight in a letter there. That's right. After carrying out the second twilight, they left the third twilight in that place. The third twilight was just like Aunt Natsui had just read. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. But it didn't say to praise my noble name. It says praise my name. Like, that's still wrong by a little. If you read it this way, it just keeps going on, doesn't it? On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. Gouge the head and kill. George Anaki's parents were killed with those demon ice picks gouged into their heads. But if they were the second twilight, someone else must have been gouged in the head. That's grandfather. He was burned in the incinerator and our eyes were so drawn to that part that we didn't notice. But his forehead... No, his head had been gouged. Grandfather was the victim in the fourth twilight. Do you know who else's heads were gouged? All of the first 6! But it didn't mention them there. It seems like just messing up the heads of corpses is the way this killer's doing. Like, grandfather was the victim of the fourth twilight, then Kanon-kun was smashing. Fair. Fair. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. We thought Kanon-kun's case was an unexpected... Well, yeah, but they didn't gouge Kanon's chest. They shanked it. I don't know. We thought Kanon-kun's case was an unexpected encounter with the culprit, but that's wrong. From the very beginning, they planned to lure someone out alone and drive something through their chest. If the culprit has followed the epitaph this far, does that mean 3 people still have to die? On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th twilight, gouge the legs and kill. Yes. You could read it that way. Well, I wonder about that. After those 3 die, it reaches the 9th twilight. Take a look. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive and none shall be left alive. We're all going to be killed by Beatrice. I don't get it. Hit her to the knee. Wouldn't that mean everyone dies no matter how many people there are? What was Grandfather after? Doesn't this mean the ceremony would kill him too, no matter what? It's okay if no one's left alive. On the 10th night, twilight, we finally arrive at the Golden Land. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. Grandfather wasn't afraid of dying. Look at the 2nd and 3rd of the 4th treasure. 1 shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. 1 shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. So Grandfather believed he would eventually be revived, even if he died partway through the ceremony. Ridiculous. That's insane. When you die, it's over, right? People die when they're killed. The dead don't come back to life. Isn't that a miracle humanity's been chasing after for thousands of years and still hasn't accomplished? So is this what it means? Something like you'll be able to meet them in the afterlife where they'll be restored? If what you're saying now is right, would that mean that Grandfather, whose remaining life is slim and who's been driven mad by love, is committing suicide? No. A massive forced group suicide? Kenji, is such a thing possible? I don't know. The Master is a man who sometimes has the wisdom to see 1,000 years into the future. However, there are times when it appears to be nothing more than madness to commoners such as myself. Okay, should we take that for a yes? What do you say, Kumasawa-san? I don't know anything! That's right, I don't know. Do you think I would be on this island today if I did know? I would have faked an illness or done anything to take the day off, that's right. What about your opinion, Dr. Nanjo? You've been Grandfather's friend for many years. You're the same as Genji-san. Kinzo-san was a man who far surpassed ordinary people. I've even felt a sort of inhuman power from him at times. Even I don't know what Kinzo-san was thinking when he wrote that epitaph. All we can say is that even if Father did write this script, someone else is carrying it out. That's right. At the very least, there's another culprit who attacked Grandfather and Kanon-kun. Furthermore, that person is still continuing the crimes just as the epitaph says. The letter in the beginning that you didn't think deeply about. What was it that was written there? We thought back to the recollection of the letter last night. A recitation, sorry. Beatrice had proclaimed something inside it. She had proclaimed that according to her contact with Kinzo, she would collect everything of the Ushiromiya family as interest. But then she had also revealed a special clause. If someone discovered the location of the gold Grandfather had hidden, that right would be lost. When the letter was read, Grandfather was still alive. But at that time it had already been sealed with wax by the head's ring, which meant Grandfather had handed the ring over to Beatrice while he was still alive. If we take a straightforward approach, maybe we should assume Beatrice is carrying out the strange contract with Grandfather guaranteeing her that right. This music track reminds me of the end of episode, lead up to, credits from Baccano. Kind of like how JoJo did the same thing with Roundabout. Baccano had a bit of a music sting that would lead up to the credits at the end of every episode. And this very much, that bit reminds me of it. In other words, this was the same as saying Grandfather knew and approved of the contents of the letter. Or contents. In other words, it's basically a joint message from Beatrice and Grandfather. Telling us that Beatrice will start collecting interest if we don't solve the riddle. If I remember, I'll post it in Discord after this. I gotta remember the name of the song. It's got a name, but in other words, Grandfather and Beatrice were deeming that we try and solve the riddle of the epitaph, or demanding. And if we couldn't, they were saying that the massacre would be carried out according to the epitaph. What does that mean? What do they want? I don't have a clue what it means. Yeah, no, I'm not wrong. It's not exact or anything, but it's reminiscent.
ほら
Look, another
ベ
letter
ア
from
トリーチェから
Beatrice.
また手が
Huh?
なんだって
What did he say? Mira was pointing at the top of the table where the canned food everyone had been eating just now lay still. A Western envelope from Beatrice certainly was sitting there, but so what? What in the... Aunt Natsui let out a hysterical cry, looking between her own hand and the table, because the envelope she had just opened was still grasped in her hand. So why is there still an envelope on the table? What the hell? What's going on, Maria? Where did that envelope come from?
今見たら置いて
Just now I
あ
looked
っ
and it was
た
lying there. She just looks at you, it's like, Beatrice? I've been telling you this... oh,
うん
ooh. I like the condescending ooh.
何も
I don't know anything, anything!
冗談じゃねえ
This isn't funny. There's only the 8 of us here. There's no way some ninth person snuck it. There wasn't enough time during the few seconds that we gathered around the portrait, right? Yeah, crazy voice ooh as well. Mhm.
全員下がりなさい
I don't know if we're going to hit a good logical ending point. I feel like this works. We don't know what's in the other letter, and she's pointing a gun at the family. I feel like this is a decent... Yeah, the power art is back. Whew. Yeah, you know, what better place than a great cliffhanger? The quietest of Beatrices. Oh, is it? Interesting. I would not have guessed that. Not in a million years would I have guessed that. But yeah, damn. Stuff's getting spicy. Who would have thought? Crazy. I thought this was going to be a slice of life 200-hour game. It boggles my mind that we are in chapter 1 of 8. I cannot wrap my head around that at all. Like, honestly, Pachi, it's because I don't think we'll hit another logical point, and I have to be up for work tomorrow. Like, at least for tonight, the option of ending a little early or going a bit late, ending a little early is the right one. And I hate to say that is the option on a lot of Sundays, so... 8 people live, 8 chapters. Maybe that's it. Yeah, of course. Oh, man. But yeah. We got ourselves a monster, a quote, a Discord, and a... Hold on, I'm going to try 2 more to see if we can get the special one. I might just send it to Potts, just because it's fun. I could just post it in the Discord, now that it's actually happened. Okay, I'll just post it in the Discord, now that it's procced on stream anyway. But yeah. Yeah, anonymous code, we were just talking about that, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in, thank you all for watching. Tomorrow, I think Potts and I are committing to just doing a little more Path of Exile. Tuesday, we're going to start Library of Runa. Thursday should be Library of Runa. Saturday should be Library of Runa. Sunday, we're back here. That's the plan as it goes on. You don't know it's the same one. Again, I changed it by... I just set the amplify to minus 2.5 every single time. And the first few, there's not a lot of noticeable difference, and then it quickly ramps up. There's 20 options, okay? There's a lot of options, but some of them sound a little close together. And some are noticeably different, so you know. That's what we got going on. Hold on, we have extra shadows tonight, too. We have... Where did I put Twitch? Over here. We had Birdie dropping the 99-month resubscription, which is bananas huge, obviously. And yeah. Everyone else hanging out, having a good time. The bot's not going to play it. It's just not. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. This has been Viper vs. Viperland. See you all next time.